It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Alex Lindsay's here, Andy Ihnatko, and the man with all the colors, Jason Snell from 6colors.com. He, of course, has done, as he always does, his beautiful charts talking about Apple's Q3 2022. We'll break down all the numbers next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 829, recorded Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. The Keyser Söze model. This episode of MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Certain people make my life easier by helping me out, and ZipRecruiter makes hiring easier because they do the work for you. How? ZipRecruiter's technology finds great candidates, and then you can invite them to apply. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak to try it for free. And by Nomad. Go to nomadgoods.com/MacBreak and use the promo code MacBreak for 10% off your first purchase of any Nomad accessory, Apple Watch straps, wireless chargers, ultra-durable cables, and more. It's a limited time offer. And by CashFly. Deliver your video on the network with the best throughput and global reach, making your content infinitely scalable. Go live in hours, not days. Learn more at cashfly.com. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news, and there's a little bit of Apple news. Alex Lindsay is here, 090.media and officehours.global.
Good to be here.
There's no zeros in officehours.global. Hello, Alex.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah,
going great now that I've recovered from the COVID, and now I can be in the big studio again. I don't have to worry about infecting people. I'm happy to be
say we had a great show this morning.
Did you have fun?
Had a great show. Oh, we had a good. We had a second hour on surround, and it just collected a huge number of audio experts. So the first hour is just like super geeky audio, and then the second hour is talking about surround.
Super geeky audio.
So, yeah. So
actually, I have a surround question for users of iOS 16. We'll get to that in a second. Also with us from WGBH in Boston, Mr. Andy Ihnatko. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Leo.
Looking fresh and shiny today.
Thank you. It's because for the first time in like 18 weeks, I'm not wearing a black shirt.
Oh, there. That's it. I thought maybe your skin routine had changed.
I finally switched into my kicky, high-spirited summer color palette, which is sort of a dark maroon.
Yeah. Very, very, very kicky. Also, Jason Snell from 6 Colors, who is so sick of us by now because he's been on only...
It's like a month.
Yeah. I mean, 1 month, and he was on Twit, and he's on MacBreak Weekly, and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? You're going to get a lot of airtime today, too. By the way, before we go into that, on Sunday, you said you were using the Opal camera. Are you still using the Opal camera?
I am.
How do you like it?
I like it. I mean, I think there's a question if you've got an iPhone and macOS Ventura, if you need something like this. For those who don't know, it's a standalone camera that
$300.
It uses really nice camera parts.
A Sony sensor. 1-inch sensor.
But to be a webcam, and it's designed as a webcam, and you can put it on your monitor, and so mine's on my monitor here.
Yeah.
And that's all good. But the iPhone is also a very good camera, and with iOS and Ventura, you're going to be able to do that. You're going to be able to just use your iPhone and use it as a webcam if you want to. But then again, you got to put your iPhone up there and clip it on and get it set and all of those things. So for some people, I mean, I'm doing a video show every week, so it seems like a good investment.
$300. Yeah. It's not a 1-inch sensor. I'm sorry, it's a 7.8 millimeter sensor. And you're not using the microphone because that's.
I'm not.
We
I'm
won't
using
let you do that.
a Shure SM7B. Yeah, you won't. But it's got
good?
some controls and it looks nice. Right. And it's the pitch is it's sort of don't use an SLR
right.
because that's ridiculous. Just use sort of an SLR optics in a little webcam, and it's a 4K webcam. It looks great, so I'm happy with it so far.
Yeah. You were a little pink on Sunday, but I don't think that was your fault.
I'm colorblind, so I was trying to adjust the colors, and I did it badly.
So you brought somebody a professional.
Yeah. Also, to be fair, Jason's one of the few nerds that I know that actually goes outside a lot. Like, he goes to football games, he goes to baseball games.
I don't know if that's. I mean, that's like that's mere hours out of the year that I'm outside, Andy. Most of the time I'm in my garage.
I'm not saying you're any kind of Adam Angst here, but you're still compared to like the neutralize the blue and the green and the skin tone. I think that you're You're much healthier.
I think the thing about the Opal that's also interesting is it has Mac software, which a lot of other cameras do not have.
I think it's Mac only right now.
Yeah,
even.
that's how they're selling it. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Although with continuity camera, I got to think they're going to pivot.
I have to say, I always use camo with my iPhone 12, and it just really looks so good. I don't feel the. I was trying all sorts of other things.
And continuity camera is, I mean, I love camo too, and camo has settings, and Opal has settings, and that's the problem with Apple stuff is that Apple doesn't have settings. Yeah. They just want you to take it the way it is, and mine zoomed in a little bit, and you can zoom and pan and stuff with camo. However, being the home field advantage of being the platform owner, the fact that you don't have to launch an app and set it all up and all that, you can literally just put your phone while it's asleep up as a webcam, and it just works. It just comes on and does the right thing, and that's pretty powerful. So it's a lot less fiddly than something like camo.
Very nice. Good. Now we can get to Apple's quarterly results. They came out Thursday. Their fiscal third quarter 2022, a record for a June quarter of $83 billion. That's only 2% up year over year, but that's, up is up.
Damn it.
Darn. It is a record, but is it a record? Is it a wow, or is it more, well, it wasn't as bad as it could be? In fact, Apple quite a few times, I think, said what did Luca Maestri say? A cocktail of headwinds?
Cocktail of headwinds, yes. The mixed metaphor of the week is cocktail of headwinds. How do you get a
That's like a hurricane.
I don't know. It's weird because, it's by Apple standards. Everything is by Apple standards, right? Because these results came out and the Wall Street people, I was listening to like CNBC or something, and they're like, oh, thank God. And really, they're just so relieved because the tech stocks have been so bad. And to look at especially the iPhone number, iPhone was up 2% year over year, and that's half Apple's business. And I think the Wall Street people are like, oh, good, the iPhone isn't cratering.
What a relief.
Life is okay, at least.
Yeah.
And by Apple standards, I mean, again, it is a record third quarter. Third quarter is not their best quarter, but it's a record third quarter, so yay for them, I guess. But Apple's recent quarters have been amazing, and there were a lot of downs in their individual product categories, some of which can be ascribed to what they warned us about 3 months ago, which is that there were a bunch of factory shutdowns. Shutdowns. Yeah, one factory said stick them up to the other one. No, there were a lot of factory shutdowns in Shanghai where most Macs get assembled due to COVID. And they warned that they were not going to be able to make as many Macs as people wanted to buy. And while that is kind of a nice problem to have, that there was so much demand, the problem with that is you're leaving money on the table. And they said that they were going to leave between $4 and $8 billion on the table this quarter. They didn't. They said they came up a little short of $4 billion. So still almost $4 billion that they left on the table. And when they were asked about that, Mac sales after like 5 record Mac quarters in a row were down 10% year over year. And when asked about that, I thought the most interesting thing in the whole call with analysts that they do after they release these results was Tim Cook saying, oh no, we're happy it was 10%. You should have seen it before. And you get the sense that those factories were just coming online at the beginning of the quarter, and they were way behind on selling Macs. And by the end, they caught up enough to get to 10% down from a scary number that's even worse than that. So, some of this is about like global economy and about them leaving Russia and all sorts of other things that they did, and their softness in wearables especially. But again, for it to be a record and also for their biggest problem to be they couldn't make them fast enough, it's not I don't want to belittle that problem, but like that's not the worst problem to have, and foreign exchange and stuff like that. So, it's weird to talk about it because was it not Apple's strongest quarter? Yeah, but it was also like an Apple record quarter, and I don't know. It's hard to get too caught up in it because it's a lot of money. It's just a lot of money.
Only one of the M2 laptops was in this quarter, right? The MacBook Air is not.
The MacBook Air did not ship in time for this quarter at all.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that the areas that are soft, I think one thing that I noticed looking at the wearables as well as the iPad is that one of Apple's problems is they make those very durable. Like you get the watch and you're kind of like every time they come out like, well, this watch works pretty well. And my kids are still using an iPad Pro. I bought them the iPad Pros when they first came out, the 12.9s or whatever. They still use them every day.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I also think that that's also speaks to a lot of developers aren't taking full advantage of the new features that are available in some of the newer iPads. And so what the iPad does, it seems to do for 5 years, and that's a little bit of also Apple even needing to push those technologies if they want to sell them more.
It's actually not been a good year for iPad in general. This quarter down 2%, previous quarter down 2%, 14% the quarter before that. So iPads.
But following a year of really explosive growth on the iPad, where they sort of figured it out, I think what baffles me about this, and they don't disclose how they know this, but they say that this is true and it's a legal. They if they lied, they would go to jail. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. They talk about switcher numbers and expanding their user base, and that's one of the things that they emphasize. So like even though Mac numbers were down, they said more than half, to Alex's point, more than half of the people who bought a Mac in this quarter were switching. Were not Mac users before.
That's kind of amazing.
And that they had a record number of iPhone switchers for the quarter. And again, the numbers are a little hazy, and I don't know exactly how they're slicing it, but they make those claims a lot about iPad and about Mac and about iPhone, that people are switching and they're expanding their install base, and their growth isn't just coming from an old Apple user, recycling their old computer and buying a new one.
Well, and look at Intel's results this quarter, which were terrible. In fact, AMD exceeded Intel in market cap just this week, which is kind of mind-boggling. So I think the Apple Silicon, is it safe to say that this is a victory for Apple Silicon as much as anything else? Yes?
Apple certainly ascribes it to that.
Yeah.
The Mac sales being a record for the last.
But just people switching. Yeah. I think a lot of,
Sure.
We talked last week about John Gruber and his contention that Apple should be included when you talk about the best laptops and so forth, but for whatever reason it wasn't picked as the best laptop by Wirecutter. However, I think real users look at battery life, they look at coolness, they look at performance, and go, yeah, maybe it's time to buy a Mac. I'm not at all surprised to hear that.
And I think that one of the arguments for a long time was, well, it's not a Mac, but you get way more for the dollar. And that Apple kind of eroded that, where you're getting a lot of performance and again, battery performance, chip performance, screen performance for a relatively low amount of money.
There's still the Apple tax. I mean, it's compared to PCs.
But not much.
Yeah. Well, a $1,000 MacBook Air is a pretty, that's reasonable.
There's not a lower version, but when you compare it to another $1,000 PC,
that's right.
That's where when you compare them dollar to dollar, Apple may have an edge at this point.
Wirecutter they don't picked a $1,300 XPS 13 over, not mentioning the MacBook Air, which was $300 less. Yeah.
This is why you really, really wish that Apple or these other companies could really break down these numbers, because we've, to Apple's credit, we've seen that stat before, like quarter after quarter, where hey, we've got a lot of switchers from Windows, which is significant. It's maybe emotionally significant, maybe not significant in terms of increasing their market share, but still significant that they're not shedding off Mac users, which means that whatever they're doing, whatever their 5-year plan is, they're making their current users happy, and that's going to be a big part of it. But I keep wondering, are they? It's one thing to convince someone who had $1,500 to spend on a Windows notebook to spend $1,800 to $2,000 for a MacBook. Are they convincing people who had a budget of $500 to $700 to $800 to spend $1,000 to $1,300? Do the people who spend do the largest segment of the population who are buying laptops, are they seeing so much value in the Mac that they're willing to spend a little more to get that extra Apple advantage? That's something that I'd really love to know.
As someone who buys a lot of PCs, I think there is also something else going on. Somebody in our chat room, Eric Duckman, says, new computers are overrated. I have 4th-gen Intel machines. I don't know if they're Macs or PCs, but I think that's actually the case. I have a lot of older PCs, and they're not appreciably slower. So I don't think people are looking so much at performance these days as other things. For instance, battery life. I mean, when you're talking 12-hour, all-day battery life, that's a real value. And I think that maybe PC users are going beyond performance these days as well.
And don't forget, when the Intel transition happened on the Mac to Intel, it was a different era, and a lot of people bought Macs at that point because they felt like, oh, this is safe, I can run Windows on it too, and they didn't, but it was like enough to get them across. But with this Apple Silicon transition, you pick up all of this battery life and energy efficiency, and the compatibility is it's just not an issue. So many things are web-based, and
you don't care anymore.
Yeah, the ability to run the iOS apps to a certain degree, and it just kind of doesn't matter. And so it ends up being more about battery life and maybe aesthetics. And that $999 MacBook Air sure looks pretty good, and maybe you've thought about buying a Mac before, and now it's just like it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal, and I think that works in Apple's favor.
Quality components, better keyboard, better trackpad, better screen, all of those kind of ineffable quality of life differences may end up making more of a difference when performance is less important. Go ahead, Andy.
And I'm sorry. And to that point, Gartner research report on the laptop market was really, really interesting a couple of weeks ago, showing that nobody is we're expecting serious downturns for the rest of the year at least. With Apple being hurt the most, they were just expecting their sales to be pretty flat. PC sales to be a little down, but not disastrous. But then you look at Chromebook sales, which they're expecting to fall off by 30%. And that, to me, is very, very significant because, yes, there are all kinds of reasons why 2020 and 2021 might have been artificially inflated numbers for the Chromebook, but it means that there's no Chromebook revolution going on. I mean, I think a lot of us in this chat would say that for most users, a laptop that just runs Chrome or Safari really, really well, almost everything else is kind of secondary, given how much time people spend inside a web browser for one reason or another. But one would have expected that if Chromebooks were at the cusp of a new revolution in the 2020s, all of these people buying new Chromebooks for practical reasons would realize that, hey, look, I'm using my Chromebook a lot more than I'm using this laptop I spent $2,000 for 3 or 4 years ago. The fact that it's cratering means that, and the fact that Apple's MacBooks are expected to be pretty much flat as opposed to back into growth, I think that is another serious point in favor of Apple's strategies.
People,
and I think that
this is The Verge from last week. People aren't buying as many PCs, and Intel is feeling the multi-billion-dollar burn. They lost $500 million in
they just have their laptops on their laps.
That's there's the burn right there. It's hurting.
Exactly.
I don't know if you correlate that to the increase in Apple switching, but I have a feeling it is. I think it's related. Yeah.
Well, and I think that when you start to, for almost any company, and oftentimes individuals, if you start valuing your time, then Apple gets really cheap. You know, the amount of time you spend fiddling with PCs and Chromebooks, and this is, I've worked at companies where the IT support department for the PC side, it's the same number of Mac and PC users. The support for the PCs is like 9 people. The support for the Mac side is like half a person. Like it's there. And it's a different level of cost and a different level of time. And I know for me, for a while I was really using a consumer PC with Oculus, and I finally just gave up on the whole thing because I was like, every forced update,
it's no fun,
Oculus.
is it? Yeah.
Every forced update, I was like, and you can get out of that with an enterprise version and all this other stuff. But for an average person, when you have updates that are breaking a bunch of stuff that you're using all the time, that's I don't know how anybody thinks that that's okay. I know that they have to do it, but
I don't know how much faith I have. Certainly corporations, which have metrics and they measure all this, I understand they pay attention to it. But the individual, the homo economicus, I think probably isn't making this deep calculation about, 3 years from now, the overall cost of ownership. I think they they go to Costco and they look at the price on the shelf.
But I think they're getting past. I think that we are getting into the next generation that's moving past Costco because they're actually using them and they're actually using them at home and they're actually using them for themselves. I'm not saying they do the calculation, but it is a lot. The hardship of owning a Mac is lower. It might be, and we used to say, well, you pay a lot extra, but now it's not clear that you pay a lot of extra for an average person. If you are. What I will say is that, we own a bunch of PCs, and I think there's more PCs in 090 than there are Macs. The main thing is if you are a savvy user, there are tons of things that a PC can do that a Mac can't. There are tons of things that there's flexibility and all kinds of things that you want to use. But anytime someone says, "Well, I'm a home user and I haven't used a computer a lot," I'm somewhere between an iPad and a Mac. So let's keep you out of the dangerous forest.
That was interesting. I saw 9 to 5 Mac had a big feature article on should you buy an M2 MacBook Air or an iPad, an M1 iPad. And I thought that is a decision.
Well,
do people make that? Are people really?
Absolutely. I mean, I talk to people all the time, and I go, what are you doing? The first thing they say, well, what should I get? And I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, well, I surf the web and I do Word documents.
Yeah, an iPad's fine.
And I'm like, you should just get an iPad because then you don't have to worry about it. There's so many things.
Or
you
a Chromebook, but an iPad's such a better experience.
A Chromebook is such a rock. It's really good at keeping doors from opening and shutting. But that's about its best use. It's such a worthless piece of.
Okay, I do have
my
to
kids
say
have them. I hate them.
That.
Oh my gosh, I hate them.
All I'll say is that a nitpick on an earlier point that maintenance on a Chromebook is non-existent. It's up
zero.
There with the iPad.
Usefulness is also non-existent.
Well, your poor kids those are foisted upon them by the school district, and they're not the best Chromebooks ever, and blah blah. And they have also,
but they do get free lunches that are nettable.
Look at that. That is a good Chromebook he's got there, right there.
Yeah. I've got a Pixel Book, and it is one of my main computers. I do so much work on this because it is so useful. Assuming that you don't get the $200 cheapest possible,
but that's the problem.
Model possible.
Yeah, people say
and that is the problem. Right?
Yeah, they're over economical. Super economicus.
So I think that by the time you get to you can get a really nicely made Chromebook for $400 to $500. I think a lot of people really do just associate Chromebooks with, well, this is the lowest common denominator. We just need to get more screens inside the house. We need to get more screens inside the office. But we can fill that remit for $200 or $300 a seat instead of $500 or $600 a seat. By the time you get into the price of a decent Chromebook, and really we're talking about Samsung makes a $700 Windows.
I mean, the one you're holding up is $1,000 though. Let's be fair, right?
Well, $800 it cost me because it's kind of a basic configuration. This is the Chrome. If people who are just listening in audio, this is Google's Pixel Book, which they stopped making, but still one of the nice. This is almost Apple-like in design, and you could buy this configured as an i7 Intel processor with lots of storage for $1,200, $1,300, which is definitely, hey, I'm a senior executive. I can't be seen at a conference table with anything but the very, very best laptop out there. But it's out there. That's why I'm saying that I really do think it's significant that it's not the Chromebook as it's found its place. It's a very important place. It's a wonderful piece of technology. It's a wonderful operating system. The fact that Chrome OS Flex can now be installed on all kinds of computers that are perfectly useful, but they've just been abandoned by Apple and Microsoft. Also, a very, very important role in the playing field right now. However, it is significant that it hasn't really taken over the way that you would think that a computer that's this usefulness and expensive would, and so I think that is kudos to the iPad, kudos to the Mac. Although
don't deprecate Chromebook sales. They consistently number one sales, a lot because of schools, but still, right. Chromebooks have done fine. I don't think anybody's saying.
No, they're doing okay. I'm just saying that as someone who often tries to think about, I'm go into beard stroking mode about what does this say about our relationship with technology. It is interesting that we're still very, very much locked into a conventional, mostly a laptop running a conventional desktop operating system. iPads are also extreme. The basic $320 iPad is one of the biggest steals in technology right now. It's such an incredibly good value, but with a lot of good reason. It really isn't a notebook. It isn't a boring keyboard trackpad screen. Because as I keep saying, as big a fan of the iPad as I am, iPads are awesome. They can do anything that a notebook can do, until it can't. In which case, oh my God, are you screwed? Just simplest things ever. So that's why it's an interesting calculus to navigate.
Yeah. Services down, still growing, 12% year over year, but that's the slowest growth rate since this graph was started, which is what, 2018? This is, by the
Yeah.
way, credit to Jason and Six Colors. These are that we're using their beautiful color graphs, your beautiful color graphs that you generate every year.
Thank you.
Every quarter.
Yeah, services is funny. It actually was down sequentially for the first time in 2 years, but its weakest quarter is this quarter for whatever reason. Apple ascribed a lot of it to softness in the ad market, which I think is really interesting. An analyst tried to do the whole you guys are doing app tracking transparency, which makes it hard for Facebook to do ads about apps. And so you get to do all the advertising inside the App Store, which is a first-party ad, but you make money with it, which, Tim Cook basically didn't answer because
there is no answer because it's true.
Yeah, it's absolutely
It's
true.
true.
So, but they did
by
say
the way,
that one of the
Apple's
reasons
beefing up.
services was down was because of that revenue.
They're increasing where they're putting ads, right? They announced that this week.
Yeah,
So,
there's new ad spots as well. So, and it's like we talk about services and everybody thinks, oh, it's Apple TV Plus and it's Apple One and it's Apple Fitness and Apple News. But part of the services container is search ads. So,
what's the biggest portion, though? It must be the App Store, yes?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, they don't break it down, but it has to be. And maybe this is this.
And Apple Care too. Apple Care is probably making a lot of money.
This might, okay. So if you can't sell Macs, you can't sell Apple Care. So maybe that's part of it. I would bet though that recession, or we shouldn't call it recession, inflation. I don't know what it is.
Macroeconomic.
There you go.
Issues.
Cocktails of headwinds are definitely impacting the App Store. Don't you think people probably are spending less money in the App Store? When times are tight, you don't go out and buy 300 Simpsons donuts. I know for a fact.
I will say that looking at that number, I thought about it this morning while I was looking through that. And one of the things I noticed is I'm not buying very many apps.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think, I'm buying way less. And it actually, for me, and I don't know if I'm, canary in the coal mine or just crazy, probably both.
You're the crazy canary in the coal mine is what you are.
I have become super sensitive to subscriptions. And so if I see an app, and it's going to have a subscription, I just don't download it because I'm like, oh, I can't add another monthly fee, And so I think this idea, and Apple pushed it. Apple pushed all these developers to go to subscription because, and I get it. I get that they make more. They have a stable income. They can pay for their bills and they can do all those other things. I understand the model, but as a user, I'm finding that I don't want to play anymore, and it has to be really good. And what I do now is I'll install it, I'll sign up for a subscription, and I immediately cancel it. So I wait one day. I don't know, I'm superstitious. I wait one day and I cancel it so that it will go away if you don't use it. If you don't pay attention. If I don't use it, it's just going to, if I don't pay attention, it's just going to die at the end of the month. So then I'm only paying for that one.
Yeah.
And it's just, I do it for everything. And then I just re-up. And then if I can't use it, I just re-up it.
I renew it.
But then I delete it again. I just go, so I look at it as I'm paying for the use of it.
It's a onesie, twosie, one time only. Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you don't, now I will say that's also why I'm very sensitive to Apple losing control of the app stores because I want that central place. And I'll tell you one thing. Anybody has any kind of subscription outside of the App Store? No way. The only one that I pay for is Audible, but I'm like, I am not touching anything because I can't manage it. Like I can manage it inside the Apple App Store, and I can't manage it outside the App Store.
Yeah, I think you might be right. We talked about this on Sunday, didn't we, Jason? About subscription fatigue, and I got a lot of email and comments from listeners who said, "Yeah, subscription fatigue is real," and I don't know if it's related, but you see streaming services. Peacock had 0 new subscribers this quarter, for instance.
Well, I think people are starting to they have to start making decisions. Like I'm looking at all the streaming services I have and looking at it going, well, do I need all of these? And I've started turning some off. I never signed up for Paramount because I was like, you're too late. Like I'm already full.
But
Peacock.
So that's the problem.
Yeah, but Peacock, you're too late. I'm not going to do that either. And so, but
it's
I've
all
got
hit driven. It's all hit driven.
Well, and you have just enough hits. The funny thing is, like, there's like Netflix. I'm always like, I'm going to get rid of them, and then I'm like, then I forgot about them. I didn't even have Netflix for like 3 months, and somehow I changed my credit card. I had to change my credit card or whatever. Anyway,
I think that's why Netflix is in trouble because they haven't come up with a new hit series like Stranger Things. They're pushing this Gray Man now, and they're hoping this will become the next big thing. No interest.
I am the target. Like I am the target audience. Like if you're like, I'm the guy that watches
You're the crazy
Man on
canary
Fire,
in the
Jason
coal mine.
Bourne,
We've established
Jason
it.
Bourne,
Yes.
Jack Bauer. I'm all in. Like that's my
Yeah,
kind
I love
of movie.
those kind of movies too.
And
Yeah.
it was real. The dialogue was embarrassingly bad. Some of the action scenes were way over. I mean, like over the top in like too under. So there's this thing that people do that's too undercranked. So it feels like it's going way too fast. They do it to add more intensity, but if you undercrank too far, it just feels like a cartoon, and that's
People
what
are
it felt like.
running around.
Yeah, like just things like that's not doesn't
Like
feel
Benny Hill or
accurate
something.
anymore. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's like the Russo brothers, and this is the problem that all the streaming networks have is they hand off all the control to the producers or the showrunners or whatever it is, because they're so happy that they're there. And so the Russo they got the Russo brothers they worked on Avengers, and now Netflix gets to do a movie, and they said, here's $200 million.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. And the Russos did something with it.
I think this going back to Apple, though, this also has something to do with something we've talked about as Apple started to win awards, that producers, right now, if you're a content creator, you're getting money thrown at you from a variety of places. You're going to look and say, well, will my movie do better on Netflix or Apple TV Plus? Guess what? TV Plus, right? They're behind you. They're probably offering similar amounts of money, if not more.
Well, and it's the money to you, but it's also you're looking at this as a stepping stone.
Promotion.
So you want the money for the production. Like how many are you getting? $75,000 a minute? Or are you getting $250,000 a minute? Or are you getting $1 million a minute? Like those are all things that they're.
Jason, you covered this. You have a podcast in the streaming.
Downstream at Relay FM. And
Yeah.
it's true. And I did for years, I did a podcast with Tim Goodman from The Hollywood Reporter, and we
Love
talked about
him.
this a lot because he talked to the creators of this. And, it is two things, right? It's the money. And there's also ego, and it's a little bit of both. And, if Netflix is going to offer you way more money than somebody else, but you feel like nobody, like your show is not, or movie is not going to get promoted, or it's going to get promoted for literally a day, and then no one's going to hear about it again for maybe a year.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'll take the money, whatever. But I think what ends up happening if you're a creative person in Hollywood is you start to talk to your agents about calibrating that, like, where do you want to be? Where do you want your stuff to be promoted? Because it's not just about the money you get this time. It's about the money you get potentially next time, right? And so I think Apple TV Plus is an interesting example. One of the reasons Apple wants to win awards for its shows and movies is because of ego, sure, and because it makes them feel like they're legitimate. But it also makes the creative talent who they're trying to woo feel like, if I go to Apple, I'm not going into a black hole. Apple had a Best Picture winner. Apple had Ted Lasso, which swept the Emmys. Apple has done really well in getting because there are fewer shows and movies for them to promote, they make more of an effort for each one of them. And if the money is even comparable, I think you go with that. And all of the streamers have to compete on that level, too, of making the visibility of the stuff. Because if you just Netflix writes you a check and then it gets thrown in the pile and nobody knows that it's even there, like that's good for your bank account, but it's not good for your next gig.
Isn't that the decision Scorsese made? He went to Netflix, did The Irishman. I think it kind of sank without a trace. And now where is he? He's at Apple, right? I can't remember where his,
Next project is with Apple.
Yeah. So right there, in a nutshell, there's the story. I think the long term. I know Apple's year-over-year services only went up 12% this year, and that's important because Apple really has said this is financially where we want to really put all our chips. I still think that long term benefit to them is going to be great. And if you are going to be in a crunch where people have to reduce subscriptions, the Apple One subscription seems like a no-brainer, right? One thing, you get all
really
that stuff.
easy.
It's like Amazon
like Prime.
Yeah.
Like Prime. And they're playing a different game from everyone else. They've got a bundle and they're doing a whole bunch of stuff, and they're really concerned about their ecosystem rather than any one specific thing. Netflix needs to make money on Netflix, and HBO Max needs to make money for Warner Brothers Discovery, right? And then there's Apple and Amazon who are like, we'll throw it all in a bundle, and the value proposition is entirely different because I don't use Apple News, but it's in my Apple One bundle, and every now and then I'll use it to read a Wall Street Journal article, or somebody gets Prime and they're for the shipping, but then they get Lord of the Rings, and it's just they're not playing the same game as everyone else.
I call it the Keyser Söze model. Because it's,
wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. Now I'm trying to think. Okay, the usual suspects.
He always paid you more than the job was worth. He always paid you more than, because he was always making money on some other deal. Like he was always, it was never like a straight on, like I'm going to buy something and sell it for a markup. It's always like it's aggregated across a whole bunch of things.
That is exactly what it is. And in fact, something that we also talked about recently, Leo, is that the Apple rumored to do more sports rights. They got the MLS. Yes. They might get NFL Sunday Ticket. And it is the Keyser Söze model, which is, the NFL could do their own Sunday Ticket. They've already got a product called NFL Plus. They could roll it in there and charge for it. It would all be direct. There'd be no middleman. It'd come right to them. But they don't do it because there's somebody else out there who's playing a totally different game, and they're willing to pay more than it's worth because it's Apple or Amazon, and those are not coincidentally the two companies that are rumored to be bidding for NFL Sunday Ticket. And in that other game, getting eyeballs from people who watch the NFL in America is worth more than the money they give them for it. And so, it's hard to compete with Amazon and Apple for stuff like that because they're not playing the same game.
And if Apple ends up with NFL, and then they get to use MLS as a proving ground for high frame rate, AR, VR. Like MLS is a I believe that taking over all of MLS is going to be great for MLS.
Major League Soccer, which is the U.S. football league.
So Major League Soccer.
We have a soccer league in America. Surprise.
Yeah.
Well, and you're right. Actually, and Alex, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one of the things. I know the deal came in very late and there was a lockout in baseball, but their Friday Night Baseball deal, that's one of the things that disappointed me about Friday Night Baseball and that I hope maybe over the off season they will put more money into, which is I'm disappointed in it technologically. I feel like Apple could do a lot more to push, 4K, a higher frame rate, and changing it to not feel like it's just a cable TV baseball broadcast imported into Apple TV Plus.
And the problem,
they haven't done that yet.
Because they're working with other broadcasters, they're not the only ones owning that game. For MLS,
actually, that's not true. Friday Night Baseball, they own those games. They aren't anywhere else. They're being produced by MLB Network.
That's the problem. They're produced by MLB.
On cable.
That's the problem.
If Apple comes in and says, okay, now we're going to use a different kind of camera, higher frame rates.
You know who's doing that sort of is USFL. Have you watched any of the U.S. Football League games? USFL, they've got drone shots. They have actually a drone in the huddle.
That's not dangerous at all.
It's crazy,
exactly.
But
I guess they got helmets.
It gets you excited about the potential, and that's what you're saying, well, and I think that's exactly right.
And then suddenly Apple is delivering something on their platform because everybody in sports is looking at 120. So like there was a tent in Japan, and the Japanese are really interested in 120.
120 frames per second. You're talking about,
and they were viewing parts of the sports in 120 frame per second, 8K, HDR on these huge screens.
It's stunning,
and it just looks like a window. I didn't see it, but
But you can't deliver it over cable or over satellite. You have to stream it.
But you can stream it. Yeah. And so you can, now, if only you had an Apple TV with a chip that was able to do 120, which already is in the last one that came out.
Wow.
So it's all there, and all Apple has to do, is turn it on.
Yeah.
And so you could end up with this. And then what happens when you start during the game, there's VR and AR opportunities. There's all kinds of other things for glasses. There's all kinds of things that they can start doing. That it's just anytime you work with a broadcaster who's already doing it or a company that's already done it, they have a machine. It is so hard. I do this all the time is work with them. It's so hard to get in because they get paid to have it do the thing, and they don't want to change a lot of things. And we do 1080i. let's just stick with 1080i. And getting to 1080p is a big deal, let alone 4K for these productions. And now Amazon has gotten to 4K on, I think 4K 60 on for the Thursday night games. But and then you have to build the whole pipeline. You have to have all the things that Apple has to be able to do this. To innovate the way sports is covered, you have to have the devices, you have to have the transport system, you have to have, the contracts. So Apple is like slowly tying all these bits together to, arguably the most valuable real estate on TV, which is live. Because live is still something you have to, you can't skip the ads because there's just, you can walk out or whatever, but otherwise they're there.
Apple's deal with Major League Soccer starts next year, and it's for 10 years.
and it's 100% exclusive.
And it's everything.
They are producing with the league. They're producing every game. It won't be somewhere else, so they can really push.
So you got to figure this is unlike the Friday Night Baseball. This really, I think you're right, Alex, is the opportunity for Apple to shine and show what
they have a lab for the next 10 years. That no one's going to complain about because MLS wasn't getting that much coverage.
Right.
They weren't getting that much TV distribution. They're going to be in it. They're going to be.
It's actually going to make me want to subscribe to MLS.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Well, it's going to come with your.
Oh, it comes with Apple TV
You won't have to
Plus.
subscribe.
No additional cost. Yeah.
I bet.
No, that's not true. That's not true. They're actually going to have free games. They're going to have games that are for Apple TV Plus subscribers. But to get everything, it's going to be like a package where you have to buy in. Or if you're an MLS season ticket holder, I think you get it.
Yeah,
for free.
you actually get an Apple One account if you're an.
But like if you did that with MLB or NFL, people would be out with pitchforks and torches, because they're taking away their thing and putting it on Apple TV. But with MLS, it's going to just expand that market dramatically for soccer, and
it's brilliant for MLS because they need that kick in the butt, and it's brilliant for Apple.
Yeah, and the first year may just be them figuring out how to do it. So we may not see any of the things I just talked about, but I bet you,
as long as they have somebody who can say, go, 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 go.
I'm sure they've got that guy on. Andres Cantor probably is on tap for that. But yeah, I hope they do that with baseball too, because they only do 2 games a week.
And
Friday Night Baseball, they have the opportunity.
Very disappointing.
To do something that doesn't look like every other baseball game.
If they get out from under MLB, though, right? If they got to start producing it themselves.
I don't know. I mean, maybe, although MLB Network could probably still produce it for them. You probably want to hire somebody who actually knows how to do this kind of production.
Commentary.
But push them.
Yeah, that would help too. Yeah.
Push them further.
Yeah.
The commentary is so bad on Friday. I turn it on and I go, did you guys ever play baseball? Like, I'm not sure if you played.
Alex, that is state of the art for national baseball broadcasts right now, unfortunately, it's like a podcast that happens at a baseball game. And if you watch ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, it's the exact same thing. And it's really too bad. It's like national baseball broadcasts. They think that nobody who watches a national baseball broadcast likes baseball. So they have to distract them with other stories and stuff.
TV.
And I don't get it.
That's
I don't
so
get it.
But you know what you do? You fire up your TuneIn Radio Pro. You get the local play-by-play guys who are always great because they're homers.
Here's the thing about MLS, and they haven't done this with MLB, and they should. But with these MLS games, they've said they're going to do local radio as an additional audio, and that's one of those ideas, right? You're streaming, you can have that kind of control. I don't know why Friday Night Baseball. Maybe it's a rights thing, but they should roll in the local radio for Friday.
And the
Night
funny thing
Baseball.
is that audio at basketball and football, everything else, that audio is available at the stadium. I mean, it's like plug in, plug out because they're there, right? They're covering it. All you got to do is get the feed, and you can just draw it.
The big problem with baseball is it's such an old-fashioned game, and people who are baseball fans are such traditionalists that you don't want to mess with it too much.
But what I would say is you don't have to mess with it. The thing is that if you get really good commentary, the great thing about
you got to have good commentary.
But
I'm saying you're not going to have somebody in the chat room saying you need black light baseballs. No, you can't do that.
The thing is that
freak.
If you get people who really know the game. And they're commentating between. Baseball is really great because it's so slow in the sense that you can fill it with. The reason the commentary is more important for baseball than any other game, maybe cricket, is that they're both really slow. There's a lot of time between plays. And so there's all this like I grew up in my father and his best friend. They could literally give you the starting lineup from 1955 until 1975, like literally all of them. And they'd sit there and talk about what all this means and all this And it was like this. The game just blew by because I could barely keep up with all the information.
It's really interesting.
But you need, and we've given up on those kinds of commentators that are giving you what I don't want them to do. They don't need to do crazy things. They just need to pack it with information.
So
between those things.
I want to push back on that a little bit. I think that one of the challenges, local broadcasts do that. National broadcasts tend not to. I do think it's a lack of imagination on the part of the networks who are afraid.
Blame TBS.
Afraid people don't like baseball.
Jack Buck, it's all his fault.
And I wouldn't even blame the announcers because you know what? Some of those announcers are really good.
They could be good.
But they are being told what kind of show. Like Hunter Pence does Apple's West Coast games, and he recently sat in on some Giants games.
Yeah, listen.
And he was great.
Yeah.
And yet on the national broadcast, he's so restrained and kind of not, it's just not the same.
Those guys reading the stats cards. Well, know the guy behind him with the statisticians behind him giving him a card. And then it just lacks all
because
life.
That stat is sponsored by some betting company, and so they have to read it, and it's a whole thing. I mean, this is not a podcast about baseball, but I think our larger point is, wouldn't it be nice if Apple, in any of these places where they get to control everything, should actually make it look like it could only be on Apple TV?
And you look at like the NFL. I mean, they spend years on every new camera, every new thing. You'll see something like sprinkle into like the goalpost, the pylon cameras were being used without making it to broadcast for 2 or 3 years before they put them in. They're constantly pushing that outside envelope, and those games, you watch a Sunday night football game, which is kind of the best live sports you can see, in my opinion. Like it's just so packed with production quality. You've got people totally explaining what's happening. They're explaining how it works. They're writing over top of the screen. They're doing all those other things, and it deepens that whole experience. And I think Apple could keep on going with that and add VR and add other things and again, I do think I agree with you, Jason. I think that why make something lukewarm when you can make it great for the people who are excited about it and let them. I don't know why would you watch baseball if you didn't like it?
Yeah, we always said that on Tech TV. Tech TV, there was always this push to make it more appealing to people who don't like tech, and it said, "Well, why would you do that's nuts. Why would you do that?" Yeah.
So I want to throw some praise on a service that has been demeaned while we're talking about this. Peacock got an exclusive game this year. That's a Sunday morning game, and they put a broadcast group together for it where it's Jason Benetti, who is one of the very best baseball broadcasters. He's a White Sox broadcaster, and he has been doing ESPN. Just got hired by Fox, actually, and you'll see him in the postseason for Fox as well. Great guy. His broadcast is him paired with 2 people who are experts from each team. Either a play-by-play or commentator or somebody else who is around the team. And so you get a really good announcer and 2 experts, because part of baseball's appeal is the narrative around like the very long season and 162 games and all of that. And I think the Peacock Sunday morning broadcast has actually been really good. And it's that would be more of a model, I think, maybe that Apple should play with.
And the thing that, I did a bunch of live streams about 25 basketball games. And one of the things that we did is we took an ex-player from the team that we were covering and a social media person who really knows basketball and really likes that team. And it was unabashedly, just
be
interested
homers.
in that team.
That's okay.
And the thing is that, and it was awesome because, and also there was no rules. So there was like, he shouldn't have done that. And that was on his own team, like that was a dumb move and talking through it. But someone who had been there and then someone else who could hold the space. And then we gave him a telestrator and all this other stuff. And it was, and I was like, I'd much rather watch this than any broadcast.
I honestly think some of it is also a dearth of talent. There's so many games now.
There's a lot of players. There's a lot of players that know a lot of things.
Yeah, but a Vin Scully, a really talented play-by-play guy.
You got to match them up.
Those guys, I think there are not enough of them. I really
there's 30 teams, and you could probably name about 20 broadcasters who are at that level.
Yeah,
maybe 30. But
I know a little bit about this. I was good friends with the Giants guy Hank Greenwald for years because I worked at the Giants radio station, and his son Doug Greenwald. Who has been working his way up. You start in single A ball and you sell ads and you do the play-by-play, and he's been working he went to Syracuse where all the great play-by-play guys go. It's really hard to get to be a Vin Scully or a Hank Greenwald. That's a tough thing.
When you're behind the scenes, you realize it's insane data, like how much data that's coming at you that you have to call out and make it all work.
But there's some ineffable skill.
And then you have to sound calm.
There's just some, and it's got storytelling, and it's a love of the game, and there's some skill. It's just and the greats in all sports, are you can name them because they're so great. So By the way, Apple, Luca Maestri did announce has 860 million paid subscriptions across his services: Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple News, iCloud. That is
and the App Store.
And that
actually includes all App Store subscriptions. They consider their subscriptions.
Oh, well, that doesn't. Oh, never mind then.
But it grows. It's a big number that keeps getting bigger, and that's the point. That's why they say it is a big number that keeps growing. And so when you're looking at services, please be aware that Apple is building its subscriber base incrementally all the time.
Yeah, and I can see now why Apple's really focused on services as being the revenue growth tool, because they've you can especially if you can't get enough parts to make enough MacBooks to sell them.
Well, it's just super stable. Like just monthly.
Yeah, it's an
like you
annuity.
look at Salesforce.com or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's just
So let's take a break. But when we come back, I want to talk about what happened with wearables, because that is interesting. I mean, maybe you're right, Alex. People just don't need to buy them every year. I don't know. Alex, Lindsay, Jason Snell, Andy Ihnatko. We are talking Macintosh and baseball. Andy, you recommended that Ron Shelton book, The Church of Baseball. I've been listening to that about the making of Bull Durham. Oh, yep. What a good book. It makes me love baseball all over again. Our show today brought to you by MacBreak Weekly, brought to you by today ZipRecruiter. You know, in your life, think about it, just a little tip of the hat, a nod, a salute to the people who make your life easier. You know who that is. People what would I do without them? Your partner, maybe your friend. If you're lucky enough to have a personal assistant, your PA. It's like if you need to grow your business, ZipRecruiter can be that essential partner. They make hiring so much easier because they do the work for you. And you can try it for free now. It's ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. ZipRecruiter, we've used it. We use it to hire people all the time because there's a couple of things we love. One, you're going to reach out to the largest number of people possible. Post to more than 100 job boards and social sites so that more people are going to see your listing. But don't worry, they're not going to flood your inbox or overflow your phone voicemail because it all goes into the ZipRecruiter interface where it's very easy to screen and rate and hire the right person fast. And then, and this is the magic, ZipRecruiter's technology will actually take a look at your job requirements and find the right candidate for your job from their own massive collection of almost 1 million active resumes. They're out there. They'll actually give you the names, and you can invite your top choices to apply. That's why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Number 1 rated hiring site based on G2 ratings as of this year. Okay? Number 1. And I'd agree. It's the one we use. The hardest thing you have to do is remember the special URL to try ZipRecruiter free. It's ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. Thank you, ZipRecruiter, for supporting us, for helping us hire the right people fast, and thanks to all of you for letting them know you use it by going to that, or that you listen to us by going to that URL, ZipRecruiter.com/MacBreak. You know, I'm thinking I am on I'm on not a 7, a 6, Apple Watch 6. Although I have to say, because of all
See,
you're right. I didn't feel any need to upgrade. Although now, because of all the rumors about this year's Apple Watch, maybe I will. Is that why wearable sales are down?
I think it's wearables.
Go ahead, Andy.
I think that Apple's having a harder time convincing people that this new thing is way, way better than the thing you've got on your wrist right now. And I think that's a casualty of the fact that we don't spend a lot of time on our watches. We spend a lot of time on our phones. We spend a lot of times looking at the pictures we take on our phones, wishing that, gosh, wish that camera were better. We spend a lot of time on our laptops, and suddenly we're doing a lot more video conferencing, and we wish this handled live streaming a lot better, and that's a failure point. Watches continue to work until the battery pillows out and explodes out the screen, at which point you are very amenable to buying a new watch. Other than that, until Apple comes out with an amazing new sensor, and the FDA approves the use of that sensor for something that will make you the star of yet another Apple, I was about dead, and then a ghost force version of Steve Jobs elevated in front of me and told me to go to Dagobah, and then Han Solo saved me. Until they can do that again, I don't think there aren't a whole lot of elbows in the ribs saying, "Hey, upgrade, get a new watch."
Yeah. This is not. I mean, that's always been the case. But if you look at year over year, thanks to Jason Snell's Find6Colors.com graph, year over year wearables revenue change, it's been positive every quarter until this quarter, where it was down 8%.
Apple ascribes this. They say that this is the place where they felt like the economy the macroeconomic conditions right now really were most visible. And I think that goes to what you said, which is in times where you're questioning what your budget is for technology purchases, one of the more expendable things might be wearables, home, and accessories, which is the full name of this category. That in the accessory market and in an Apple Watch or AirPods or a HomePod or whatever, that's a place where, I'm going to buy the computer, but I'm not going to upgrade or buy a new accessory. And they said, like, in contrast, the iPhone showed no signs of the economic climate, but wearables,
which is weird.
They think it absolutely did.
Because it's much more expensive than any of those things you just mentioned.
Yeah, but more important, right? More necessary in a lot of ways to have your smartphone with you than it is to get a new watch or upgrade your earpods or anything you want to do.
And I do find that until I had COVID and I was interested in my blood oxygen level or whatever, there's not that much that I use that I couldn't use in the last 3 or 4 versions. Like I use the stopwatch all the time. So I use the timers or whatever, not stopwatch, but timers. I have gotten somewhat attached to the exercise thing, like, hey, you're now walking. Are you taking a hike? And that kind of thing. But outside of that, I have to admit, it's mostly for time. And I really like all the time options that I have in my little thing. But once I got to that, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of curious, like, what are they going to add that would have me need? And I went 2 or 3 years without upgrading because I was just kind of like, well, this is doing the thing. So, and I think it's a crazy thing that we've gotten into the habit where it sounds weird that people aren't buying a new watch every year.
Apple was smart, though. They made sure that the AirPods battery was not replaceable, so you'd have to buy one every other year.
Yeah,
there's that.
What do we know? What proportion in the wearables category each product represents? We don't know.
No, I mean, I'm sure there's an analyst who's made an estimate of it, but they don't disclose that except in the vaguest of words, where they'll say, "Oh, Apple Watch did well" or AirPods did well. They don't talk about it.
And I don't know if it's affected it at all, but I know that a growing number of people, including me, have become really frustrated with the pairing. Like I mean, when we first got the AirPods, it was like magic. Like you open it up and it just worked. Now it's like, I don't, like I have a phone opened. I'm trying to make a phone call. That's probably the device I want you to talk to. And it's just not connecting, like, and then I had one that said, I couldn't get it to connect, so I finally reset that thing, and then it said, you don't own these. And then I had to figure out how to get past the you don't own these thing. And so the thing is that whatever Apple has done to try to make this smoother or whatever, it is not smooth.
That's interesting.
And it is really,
it's been really
painful. And it was a big selling point, and I get frustrated by it all the time. And now I have a lot of devices. I have multiple phones. I have iPads. I have computers. But I'm only using one of them. And especially the part that I get frustrated about is really I'm holding a phone, making a phone call. This is the one that I want.
Oh, that drives me nuts.
Like it's like
that's actually why I don't
else.
use AirPods.
Yeah, and I moved. I recommended it a couple weeks ago, but I moved to the Shocks open comms because the AfterShokz open comms because number one is that it's only paired to one phone and it just works every time I turn it on.
It's dumb. It's not smart enough to say, oh, you want to use this. I don't want you to go in somewhere else. Yeah, no, just stay with me.
Also, it's got a little boom, and the folks on the other side of the call say they can barely hear anything else other than that. It's way better than the AirPod Pros.
Nice.
And so, we tested it head to head, and it's just night and day. And so, I want people to actually be able to hear me on the other side, regardless of how convenient it is. And so I started. I moved away, and I don't know. I'd have to see something pretty great to move back to the AirPods, to be honest.
Yeah, suddenly that headphone jack's looking pretty cool, isn't it?
I love my headphone jack. Dag nabbit.
I still have one in my bag. I always have one in my bag, because I have the little adapter and I have headphones, and that's my ripcord because,
Yeah. I've had a weird problem. Maybe you guys can help me. For some reason, and this happens over and over. Lisa says it happens to her too. I cannot swipe up on the Apple Watch. And the only fix, I've tried all the online fixes, turn haptics on and off, all that stuff. The only fix is to do a complete reset. Has anybody experienced, is that just me? This is the Series 6, not a Series 7.
I haven't had that problem.
I can't swipe up or down, which really kind of limits the usefulness of the Apple Watch, I'll be honest with you. I can still hit the stem and get to the apps, but I can't swipe down to see notifications, and I can't swipe up to, put it in Do Not Disturb or things like that. I got a bad one. I don't know. That's weird. Okay, nobody ever heard of that, huh? Chat room, anybody ever hear of that problem? I'm trying to get a little extra help here. All right, moving
I
along.
think there's a movie where the person finally in the third act realizes, oh my God, I must be dead. It's not a broken watch. It's just that my skin no longer conducts.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Capacity.
Maybe I'm dead. I see dead people.
Or look on the bright side. You could be one of the undead. Which has
I must be one of the undead. Thanks for the bright side, Andy.
I'm very much a glass of blood half full kind of guy.
There it is.
Ooh. Anything else to say about the overall quarter? It was a good quarter.
Apple probably going to do okay.
Apple's going to survive.
They're doing okay.
Yeah,
it's not over.
Apple's okay. They're going to be fine.
Okay.
It's going to be okay.
For all of you who lived through the 90s and thought every quarter that might be the end,
that's true.
It's going okay.
They got to within one quarter, I think, of.
I will say that reading, to me, the most interesting part is always the call where, as Jason indicated, that they have to answer questions, and if they don't answer truthfully, people go to jail. And I thought that reading through it a couple times, it seemed like a very, very defensive, reserved. I've got a script in front of me. No matter what question is asked of me, I'm going to respond to the script. I am not going to be broader. I'm going to be completely focused. Almost every question, there was an opportunity to mention a new product or a new update that they did a couple months ago. Whereas this is usual. Not that CEOs are going to be so undisciplined they're going to start freestyle rapping during a call with analysts, but they were absolutely tight-butted in a way that I've never seen them before. Even when one analyst threw Tim a softball about augmented reality, expecting him to essentially be coy and hinting and excited, he said, "Well, we're very, very excited that we've got over 11,000 AR kit supporting apps in the App Store that, of course, are running on the iPhone and iPad. Beyond this, we have no other comment." It's like, ooh, it's almost as if they were like, we have a very specific goal here. We want to avoid disaster.
This is a trend that's been going on for a while now. I didn't actually think this was different from the last 3 or 4. They used to be way more freewheeling, and what has happened is, first off, they now take up about half the time of this hour of this call, which again, like, when do you get a Q&A with Apple executives ever? Even though these aren't journalists, they're financial analysts, but still, when? Well, they started filling up the first half hour of the hour with the CEO and CFO reading from prepared statements. You can literally hear the paper pages turning as they read them, because I'm there transcribing it all. You can hear them. I've emailed them. I've said, can you just send me that so I don't have to transcribe it?
Save me a lot of time.
And then the Q&A, yeah, Andy is exactly right. That was I read a Macworld column about this every quarter, and one of the things I try to do is give like little head nods to the analysts who try things. So like the guy who tried to ask about app tracking transparency, like, good job. Tim Cook completely ignored the question. Very politician-like answer where he named 2 other things that were sort of related, didn't connect them, and then moved on. And then, yeah, absolutely, Ben Bolin, the analyst, asked about AR and VR, did it in a clever way where he said, just, progress in your existing products, just like trying to trick them or something. And Tim Cook's response was, he talked about AR kit. And then at the end, he did say, we're always exploring new and emerging technologies, but I wouldn't want to say anything about that, which I took to be like a wink. Like, everybody knows, Tim. Everybody knows, and Tim knows that everybody knows. But yeah, they're super disciplined. They've cut the Q&A time to half, and they never really. There are details in there that are interesting that you can glean, but it's a fraction of what was there even in like a year.
I mean, that's good messaging management. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, it's not fun for us, but it's what they're supposed to do.
It's not.
Did they say anything about the car, Project Titan? Anything at all about the car? No.
No, strangely, no. But let me tell you again about how much money we give to developers. So it's great.
Yeah,
they do a lot. They're just very on message. Yeah.
That's what annoyed me. That's it. Well, we noticed that we just got that an hour before this call that 3/4 of the campus is on fire and there are alien spaceships above that. Could you let us know if this is going to affect productivity for the next quarter? Like, well, we're really focused on the new spatial audio features of the new AirPods and how they're opening a brand new, okay.
We believe privacy is a human right, and that does not apply to aliens. So,
speaking of spatial, I've been meaning to ask you this, Jason. You're using iOS 16. Have you tried the thing where you take a picture of your ear?
Yeah, I tried it.
Does it work?
I mean, it said it did. I see. I
I've
hear
seen
no
some people say it
difference.
makes a big difference.
I have heard no difference. I haven't tested deeply, but I did have it take pictures of my ears the other day, which was weird.
It's using
but
the spatial front camera, the depth sensor to do that.
It
the
is.
radar?
It's trying to map the inside of my ear, I guess, and do that. I haven't noticed any difference in how my AirPods
That's
sound
because
now,
your ear is more normal. I bet if somebody had a cavernous ear or a teeny
I don't know.
weeny ear, it might make more of
My
it.
ears are pretty small. Yeah.
I think it's brilliant because, and I'm only half joking here, audio files. I mean, the audio files
they'll
with
go
a
for
capital
anything.
A.
Yeah.
I mean, they are so easy to convince or to help them convince themselves that whatever stupid, silly thing has made the audio better for them. And I'll be fair and say, okay, maybe at this point your audio, the quality of the audio hardware and software that you're using is so high that any difference is going to be noticeable and appreciated. But if I'm sorry, if you've got little crossbucks keeping the interconnects from your speakers off the ground because the impedance, I feel as though it'll make them feel as though, wow, no, I'm taking a picture. This software is customized to my. It's kind of like having custom in-ear monitors only done computationally via software. That's going to at least make them feel better about the money they spent on these.
I think that if you were the person that could hear the difference, so that you took a CD and took a green Sharpie and went around the outside edge to keep light from escaping from the CD-ROM, the scanning is for you. That's all.
Yeah, it's great theater.
I have a histogram. Look, that proves that this sounds better.
How hard was it so you got to get the true depth camera looking?
It's like
the
doing
idea,
Face
by the way,
ID.
is to improve spatial
It's literally
audio. It's Face ID.
It's literally the Face ID training.
Turn your head around.
So it gives you a little circle. You're supposed to put your ear in it. You're supposed to move your head around. It beeps when you're ready to go to the other ear. It's basically ear ID. And
Do you
again,
think
theater-
actually somebody back in Cupertino's turning on the camera every time you do that and just laughing at you?
Exactly. Little alert. New person.
At what conference room has someone said, what if we tell people that nasal cavities increase resonance, and if they put these special nose plugs in, it will actually give them better presence, stage presence? I bet we can get them to do that. I bet we cost $800 for these plugs.
You just need someone on TikTok to show how it works.
There you go. Again, I'm sure there are already.
You see, and now here's the histogram that I made after putting the nose plugs in, and as you can see by the histogram.
Too bad there isn't a better search on TikTok, because I'd like to search for things like that. That'd be handy. Apple did hire an executive from Lamborghini to work on its electric car.
Apple's like, the heck with $50,000 cars. Let's just make self-driving $500,000
We don't need poor
cars. That'll
people
work.
in our stores.
It doesn't have to be street legal, does it?
Okay. All right. Like, everybody get your Lamborghini jokes out now, because I think the most interesting thing is what was he in charge of at Lamborghini? And the answer is the chassis, including handling, suspension, steering, brakes, and rims. This is a nitty-gritty car hardware guy, and if Apple hired him, that doesn't strike me as a guy you hire if you're just working on some software.
No, that's
right?
a car guy.
This is a nuts and bolts kind of guy.
This is hardware. Yeah. Luigi Taraborelli, he's 20-year veteran of Lamborghini.
He's got the name.
Hey, Luigi, why you go to Apple now?
That name says to me that electrical system will be total crap.
He designed the Urus, the Huracan, and the Aventador. In addition to more limited models like the Huracan Sterato off-road vehicle and the Asterion concept car. But you're right. He's a head of chassis and vehicle dynamics. That's exactly what you need if you're going to build a vehicle, right?
Yeah, but at this point, I've fielded so many stories from the outside, so many rumors from the inside, that I'm not 100% convinced that Apple has any specific plan. And and when I hear about a hire like this, that's absolutely correct, and it's important to know what this person did in his previous job and what they might bring to an Apple Car project. But it might indicate that yes, they are definitely building a real car, or it might indicate that again they don't really know what they're doing. They want to get as much expertise as possible, and this is another person who will who got the really great slide deck, who got the really great presentation, and 2 years is going to be leaving because whatever
holy
they
cow,
came to do, they didn't get to do.
Not only are these people expensive, you have to lure them away from. He's been there for 20 years, but also, what kind of weird environment must it be to have all these really talented engineers coming to work if there's nothing to work on? I mean, it's got to be.
Well, there's not. I mean, when you're in R&D, though, it's not that there's nothing to work on. It's sometimes way more fun, for the because
it's all blue sky.
I remember talking to someone at Microsoft, and they were in a team that wasn't releasing anything. They were at Microsoft to test this. This was actually photosynth, right? And they had no interest in, the team had no interest in getting a released product because then they'd have to support it, but they were having a fun time and they were building great technology and they were doing all this stuff.
Person, I don't know. I think a lot of people want to have a product come out. I remember working for Ziff Davis for 4 years, so-called, working on their television division, and even being told, we would go down to, Gina Smith and I would go down to MGM and hang, we had offices at MGM Studios. And being told by my boss, oh, yeah, we have no intent of doing anything or any business with them, but just we want you to go down there and do that. Yeah. It was demoralizing.
I think it's different from a broadcast. And I think it's different, though, from being a broadcaster waiting to broadcast as opposed to someone that's doing R&D. There is kind of a fun academic thing that happens, and it's dangerous because if you're not doing something, but they've got cars out there.
They're still doing something. Yeah. They're building,
I know. I guess I would say I know. I don't know anybody at Apple working on the car, but I know other people working on self-driving cars, and I don't get any impression that any of those engineers are in any rush to release the car. They're just having a great time with a whole bunch. They got a whole bunch of money. Yeah. They got a whole bunch of sensors. They got a whole bunch of things going out there. They come back. They're passionate about what they do. They love doing it. I don't get that I don't get that they were that they care. They're just it's a really, really fun environment for them to be in. They've got pool tables and free lunch and they're doing. One
of our chatters, I won't name names, works for Nokia. And he says, I abhor having to work on actual products.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to interact with customers, defend ourselves when we miss deadlines. Pure R&D is lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I guess so.
I don't think we do it. We do know that there's a history at Apple for a time they were having problems attracting the right talent because the word was out that if you're a researcher and you work for Apple, guess what? You are never going to be able to talk about any of the research you're doing. You're not going to be able to publish nearly the quantity of stuff that you were expecting to publish. And part of it, Apple decided to loosen the leash a little bit, but it's still not the same as working for almost any other company where it's nice to have that block on your resume in which say, okay, so you were working at Apple for 7 years. What did you do? It's nice to be able to say, well, I did this research, here are the papers I published, and here's the stuff, as opposed to I'm not allowed to talk about anything I did at Apple. I can't tell you that it didn't involve a mop and a bucket.
To think of it, what am I saying? Of course I know how it's like to work on a product that never. I am a podcaster. That's in the nature of the business. Alex, you were going to say something?
There's a lot of weight. All I can say is there's a lot of weight when you can just tell someone, I worked on this, and they say, what did you do? I can't tell you. That especially from Apple, that is if they knew that you worked in that field and they say, I can't talk about that.
I can't say it.
I can't tell you about that. I'm under NDA. I'm At Apple, when you come and again, the thing is if you're trying to get another job, working at especially Apple, but any of the FANG, it's not that hard. after you get through 2 years, 3 years. Not hard to get another job.
It reminds me of the TV show Silicon Valley. Remember when they didn't have any use for anybody, they just went up to the roof and they sat there and had lunch. And they were still employed, but they just had a perpetual lunch upstairs. Our show, we're going to take a little break, come back with more. Alex Lindsay, wonderful to have you from 090.media and officehours.global, from WGBH in Boston, Mr. Andy Ihnatko, Jason Snell from sixcolors.com, the master of the color graph. Our show today brought to you by Nomad, and this is a good time to talk about Nomad. They've just introduced, I think, my favorite product. Lisa and I have two of these, the base one. They've just introduced the gold version. Now I might have to get another one Nomad does amazing stuff. You may be familiar with Nomad. They started almost a decade ago, 2012, as a Kickstarter project. Their goal then was to build the ultra-rugged minimalist tools for the 21st century that would seamlessly integrate into your everyday carry. And for the last 9 years, they have expanded into a wide range of mobile accessories, iPhone cases with beautiful Horween leather, Apple Watch straps. I love my Nomad watch strap. The leather in that is not only beautiful, but it ages so well. Wireless chargers, like that incredible, boy, this new charger, this base one in gold, gorgeous. Premium wallets, passport holders with Horween leather. That's the tannery in Chicago that was founded more than 100 years ago that gives you this such beautiful leather. Smells beautiful. It feels, to the touch, it feels beautiful, but also it ages so beautifully. You get this rich patina that's unique to yours, which is also great. Wireless charging. Take a look at AC adapters using these new GAN adapters. They've got 30-watt and 65-watt GAN adapters that are tiny. I think this base station is incredible. Lisa likes the base one because she can charge her watch and her phone at the same time, the MagSafe adapter and the watch adapter. And it's so pretty now, this gold one. It's a limited edition, though, so I'm telling you about it now, but don't waste time. They have gold limited edition. They have carbide, which is one we have in silver. This is interesting because the gold is a little less expensive than the other ones. I guess it's a special deal. They marked them down. So, wow, get on over there to nomadgoods.com/MacBreak. You can mark it down even more, 10% off your first purchase of any Nomad accessory. And by the way, when you get Nomad, you're going to get great cables, or just get their cables. They just like us have realized these crappy charging cables are just so silly. So they make the best cables anywhere. Double braided Kevlar outer sheath, strong metal alloy connector housings. They are engineered for durability, heavy use, a climate neutral certified brand, so you can buy feeling good about it. They're committed to the environment. I always like that. Nomad always is and always will be a company that prioritizes design and quality over everything else. And I think if you own Apple products, you feel the same way. And when they design new products, they use the highest quality, longest lasting materials available. Go to nomadgoods.com/MacBreak. Promo code again, MacBreak, 10% off your first purchase of any Nomad accessory. I know what my next purchase is going to be. Look at that. Nomadgoods.com/MacBreak with the promo code MacBreak. And this is a limited time offer, as is the base one in gold. Waste no time, young Padawan. Washington Post. Interesting article. Jeffrey Fowler. Electronics are built with death dates. Let's not keep them a secret. This is in reference to that AirPods thing I mentioned, which is that, the battery's glued in, and after 2 years, it's gone. It's gone. So he has a gadget graveyard in which he talks about a variety of different gadgets and whether you'll be able to upgrade them. For instance, the Amazon Fire HD 8 tablet. And Amazon won't say how many recharges it can take, but whenever it's done, a year, 2 years, 3 years, that's it. There's no battery replacement. It's going in the landfill. AirPods, same thing. Are there any third parties that, I think I've seen them, that will unglue and replace? Apple's battery service just sells you a new one. You just get a new ear. You don't get a new battery. You just get a new one, and the other, I presume, the rest goes in the landfill. The iPhone, yes, you can replace it, and Apple's service is, I think, fairly economical. MacBook Air, same thing. Bose QC35 headphones designed to die. Dyson cordless vacuum designed to be repaired. Fitbit charge. You pretty much know which things are gonna to be designed.
You have to give a little. I am so on the side of right to repair, especially when it's very, very clear that so many companies could make things easier to fix, easier to extend the life of. They choose not to, and they will give BS reasons as to, oh no, that's technologically impossible. You're too stupid to understand why you wouldn't want a laptop where the hinges could be replaced. But nonetheless, there are certain areas in which it's got to be really hard to make in-ear earbuds easy to replace batteries, or even easy to source batteries. I'll give companies sort of a free pass on that on limited occasions. But yeah, when any device that has any device that is a daily use computer or daily use entertainment product, it should be able to live at least 5 years.
I'm shocked when the Nintendo Switch. It's already, my Switch is a couple of years old. It's already almost ready for the Logan's Run carousel.
Yeah, exactly.
It's little jewels about to go off. They don't offer a replacement battery on it.
It's offensive.
That's offensive. Same thing with the Meta Quest 2 VR headset. That you could easily have a replaceable battery in that. There's just no reason not to. Right?
Or at the very least, don't take the handcuffs off of people who enterprising workshops that can figure out how to replace it themselves. I mean, the absolute hell, like the center of hell for hardware designers is definitely the people who manufacture and design printers, where it becomes we're going to make sure that there's absolutely no way that you can avoid buying printer cartridges that you don't need, and make sure you're buying them from the most expensive source possible. When you have printers that it doesn't matter that you still got plenty of ink in the cartridge, that there is some sort of a counter that says, oh, well, a certain time has expired. We feel as though you must have run out of ink by now, and we're going to basically force this machine not to do anything until you automatically order directly through our own personal website this hardware. That's the sort of stuff that makes consumers and industries hate a company. And I think that a lot of these companies are on this same route where when you say that, hey, there's my laptop is 5 years old, 6 years old, it's no longer receiving OS updates. Oh, and most of the new software, most of the updates to the software that I have won't run on it anymore. Can you at least unlock the bootloader for me so I can install something else on it? Nope. It would compromise the integrity of the computer. It's much better. It's much safer for you if you were to simply throw this away and buy a new one than to simply download a boot disk and simply make it into something that's still useful. That's bad.
Fowler does quote Kyle Weens of iFixit, who is doing his best to make these things repairable. In fact, iFixit, the chat room tells me, has a Nintendo Switch battery replacement of moderate difficulty, 21 steps. It'll take as long as 2 hours. So you better want to replace it. But at least they sell the batteries for $39.99, and they sell the tools that you need or might need to get it out. It is glued in.
Yeah.
And the screws, Nintendo uses weird Y00 screws, so you're going to need maybe a special tool to do that. Again, they sell it. Speaking of things dying, how old is Apple Arcade? Must be about 3 years old, because according to Mac Rumors, that's how long the deals with many Apple Arcade game designers lasted. And now these contracts are starting to expire.
Well, and Apple's letting some of them expire.
Some of them so they don't care about.
Apple is re-signing. Yeah, it's not that Apple's not, like, they're all expiring and they're all leaving. Apple is choosing not to upgrade, or not to upgrade, continue the relationship.
Well, I bet there's some developers though who say, well, maybe this wasn't a great deal for us, and so yeah. So I'm looking at the 15 games from Arcade that are going to leave this service, and none of them are,
anything we've ever heard of.
Yeah. Not yes.
Yeah, I mean that's the answer, right? Is Apple knows exactly how many minutes these are all being played, and they made their bets, and their conception of that service. I think we talked about this when you were gone, Leo, but their conception of that service has changed over the last few years. It's not what they thought it was. They've made those changes with rebuilding classics and also bringing things from the App Store and pulling them in and where they're basically all paid for. And so, I think some of these they're like, oh, nobody wanted to play this. All right, well, goodbye, right? I feel for the fans of those games if there are fans of those games.
Because you won't be able to play them. It's not like they'll sit on there and you could still play them.
Or they'll put them on the App Store, but then you're going to have to buy it.
Right. Apple
at least they
says
kept
that if you
Cricket
downloaded
through
the game
ages,
before it was removed from the arcade, you can continue to play it for at least 2 weeks.
Oh.
If you thought you were going to get the high score, you better start right.
You better get going.
Take some time
I got
off.
I got to take some personal time. I got a lot of quests that I got to complete. I got to find my bravery now.
Yeah. It does emphasize, though, that especially with a subscription thing like Apple Arcade, you don't own those games. Those are only good until they're not.
Just want to remind everybody that you know, they're not canceling Cricket through the ages. Have you played that game?
Is that your favorite?
So much. It's the only game I play with my son.
Cricket through the ages?
Playing,
not
it's just
the game
it's
of cricket.
Totally absurd. No, it's very absurd. It's dark.
It's about a cricket?
No, it's two people hitting a ball at each other, but sometimes it's a ball and sometimes it's a club and sometimes it's knives and sometimes it's whips and sometimes it's a dinosaur and sometimes it's like whoever thought of this game is, wow, I want to meet them. Anyway, so the
but that is one of the advantages of arcade, right? Is some of these odd indie games
I would have never
get
bought
a
that
shot.
game.
Right.
I would have seen this game and gone, that's the dumbest thing ever. But my son and I will spend hours sitting there playing against each other, and it's total because it has its own physics sim, and so what happens is you can get into these weird things where it'll do something that you don't expect, you know, like it breaks the system, and so you get really unexpected things, and it's funny. You know, it's
this is a category of gaming called wobbly gaming or something, where there's another one where you're trying to walk, but you can't really unless you time it just right. This is like that.
Yeah.
It's a little, you're a little
it's totally
ungainly. Yeah,
exactly. It's very frustrating in a lot of ways. But we have a little controller. You know, we have the little game controllers, and we play it. And I think that's the only Apple Arcade game I've ever played for more than about 10 minutes. So
you could play. It's got single player. Do you have my over the shoulder?
But it's really fun when you're playing each other,
John. It's got single player, or
my
it's
kids
got
play a lot of them.
Player.
My kids definitely sit down and they play a lot of different games on Apple Arcade. I just don't.
Daddy Longlegs. I remember you're right. Burke was saying Daddy Longlegs. We Megan and I were doing that on iOS today. It was just the weirdest.
It's like Flappy Bird. I mean, like Flappy Bird is like the most frustrating game ever.
So is this is going to be pretty frustrating? I'm going to like get.
This
mad
is
at
not.
you.
No, it shouldn't be frustrating.
Okay,
it's.
Do you buy regular games still, or do we just do Apple Arcade all the time? It feels like Apple Arcade games are kind of different from the mainstream.
Yeah, I most of the games that I play on Apple devices are Apple Arcade, but that's only because of me.
Because you're cheap.
Well, it's cheap, but it's because I've essentially already paid for them. I'll give them a try, and it's probably going to be worth my time. And because I know that it's not going to just be, hey, congratulations on the achievement that you did in the first 8 seconds. Now here's what you can buy in order to get to the next achievement for the next 20 seconds. I'm more of a snacker when it comes to games than someone who gets really involved for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so these little games like let me have fun for about 10 minutes or an hour or 2 hours are scratch my itch.
So what am I supposed to do, Alex? I'm supposed to hold
You got to
it?
swing. You got to throw the ball. You got to
throw it. Oh, the dinosaur keeps eating me.
I know you have to throw look.
Oh,
there
like
you go.
that.
There you go, like that.
Yeah, but I see
now you got a bone. Oh,
but no,
he's doing much better than you are.
Yeah, who is this?
There you go. Throw snake.
This is the
snake. Here comes the
computer's
bone.
playing.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Throw the bone.
Throw the bone.
Backwards.
See.
Okay, you got to throw it at the time.
Throw the snake.
Oh, he hit me.
Oh.
I got to throw it right when it's at the top.
Yeah, you got to get used to like where you can throw it.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I hit myself.
I got a club. Now I got a club. Okay, here we go.
Oh, is she trying to fly?
You can also just run at them. You can try to run at them and just run into them too, and hit them.
Maybe your strategy is if she tunnels under the ground and comes up underneath him.
I don't know how to do it on the phone, but there's a lot of controls on the. I don't know if maybe something must be more controls.
This is a winner.
This is why I like Apple Arcade. It's like this kind of like
you would never if you were trying to make money in the App Store, you would never make this game.
But it's so much fun.
Right.
The golf. There was another golf game that launched that I liked a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my golf.
Sort of thing.
Oh my golf is the classic.
It's a fantastic game.
But that's been since day one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Good Sudoku is good on Apple Arcade.
Oh, good Sudoku. I like Sudoku.
Well, they brought and Flip Flop Solitaire. They brought a bunch of those great Zach Gage games that were in the App Store commercially that they brought in and basically said you can get it completely unlocked for free Although I still get games out of the App Store too. And Exact Gauge has a new game called Not Words that's like a crossword word game kind of thing. That's if you don't do Apple Arcade, you can also do it on multiple platforms. So that one's on Google Play and the App Store on the outside with an in-app purchase. And so, I think everybody makes a little calibration if you're a game developer about, do you want whatever that guaranteed money is from Apple Arcade, or do you want to take your chances in the wider world? And it's a little bit of both.
I think especially if you think of a crazy game, you're like, well, let's see if we can sell Apple on it.
I am sorry to say that, let me put it this way. If you are using a dial-up modem, do not upgrade to macOS Ventura.
Uh-oh.
Now you tell me.
Beta 4 came out, macOS Ventura, and look what's gone. The ability to set up dial-up. I can't believe this was still in. This was still in it.
Oh, carrier. Can you still fax? Can you fax?
Faxing, at least people still do. I guess there are people who are on AOL and they dial in and so forth.
Oh, I'm looking in Ventura now, and under printers and scanners, if you search for fax, it even says fax settings.
Good.
Add a printer, scanner, or fax.
Well, that's a relief. Weirdly enough,
there are a lot of offices in Japan that, like the big offices that have pretty much like locked down a lot of their technology into 2002, 2003, 2004. It's one of those faxes are one of those things where no one uses fax until you find the one damn office that absolutely uses fax.
A lot of realtors
like, how the hell do I send a fax?
there are weird businesses where they still want faxes of stuff.
AOL subscribers. Guess how many?
How many?
1.5 million.
Yeah, and they all call my radio show.
Yeah. Well, also a lot of them don't realize they're still subscribing. They thought that they thought that they thought that the fact that you unsubscribed 5 times was enough, but apparently the cutoff is 11 before they actually will stop billing.
They're still making $180 million a year on dial-up.
But the question is, who is they? Because who owns AOL now?
I think it's Warner, isn't it? Isn't it Warner AOL?
Well, that means AT&T owns it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, that's bizarre. All right, I got a question for you, Jason. Why do you have a keyboard glued underneath your desk?
Well, I know what this is about. I have because I don't use Apple's keyboard, but I wanted Touch ID on my Mac Studio. So I bought an Apple Touch ID keyboard and Velcroed it to the bottom of my desk with the Touch ID button sticking all the way out at the edge of the desk so I could just reach underneath and touch my finger. And then I had to do...
What keyboard do you use?
Right now I'm using a Keychron. I'm a mechanical keyboard kind of guy. I use clicky clacky keyboards. Yeah. But then I had to get software to lock out all the keys. So I ended up with Carabiner Elements, which lets you map every key to like mouse button 32 or something like that. So basically, if I mash another key on the keyboard, nothing happens. Just that one button that I use for Touch ID. I hope one day that Apple will sell either the Magic Trackpad with a Touch ID button in it or a standalone Touch ID dongle of some kind. But until then, the next best thing is to just add a keyboard.
Doesn't your phone unlock? Your watch unlocks your Mac.
It would be an awesome feature if Continuity Camera also did Face ID, but it doesn't do that. That's not how it works. So I have, and actually I have an admission. I haven't written about this yet, but I did last week actually disassemble the keyboard, reduce it just down to the motherboard and the Touch ID, and now it's in a little 3D printed dingus here on my desk.
Now, this is the other strange thing. This Keychron, you say Mike Hurley built it for you.
Mike Hurley did build it for me.
Is that his thing that he builds keyboards?
He does a Twitch stream where he builds keyboards. Yeah, that's what he does. He's got deep into mechanical keyboards, and he wanted to make one for me that he thought I would like, and I do like it. It's really nice.
So he gets the parts from the Keychron company and then assembles it?
Keychron sells something that's kind of hobbyist. It's not the high level. Like he's into the you make a pre-order and a year later your keyboard parts come. It is you can go deep down in the mechanical keyboard. Well, yeah. I just like mechanical keyboards. They're clicky and they're fun.
Me too. do?
And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to use this Keychron. I think you'd like it, and I'm going to buy some custom switches that are like special switches, and I'm going to lubricate them, and I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to send it to you."
How do you get custom keyboards by Mike Hurley? I want that.
You just got to befriend Mike. Get Mike on Twit sometime, and then he'll be your friend and all that. So I'm going to do, for those who are watching in video, if we can get a little shot of this, I'm going to take my webcam off.
Under the desk. Oh, there's the Keychron.
There's the Keychron.
That's nice. Oh, look, it's not under the desk anymore. It's just a little. So you disassembled it, and it still works. Apple didn't.
Nub. No, and I linked to it in my story on 6 Colors. You can disassemble it, pop off all the stuff, and then you're left with the circuit board and the ribbon cable that goes to the Touch ID sensor and the ribbon cable that goes to the Lightning port. Some other people have done it where they've actually kept the Bluetooth antenna as well, but I didn't do that. And so I've got a little standalone. And then the guy who did it, I linked to this all in my post, but the guy who did it actually, he 3D printed something. You can download that 3D printed file. And then at that point, you can, if you've got a 3D printer, you can print it yourself. I don't, but then you can just use Craft Cloud, which is, if you don't know about it, it's like a clearinghouse for 3D printers, third-party 3D printers. You upload your file there and say, here's the materials I want, and you get a bunch of bids. And for $20, a guy in Texas printed the little case and sent it to me.
And you do this
pretty fun.
Live on YouTube, part of
Mike did this
stream.
live on YouTube, and he was my inspiration. And the guy who did this on Twitter, who talked about it, was in the chat at the time. So we put it together. So I don't know if I really advise anybody to do it. You can do it.
I'm surprised it works. I would have thought Apple, for security reasons, would disable it because...
Well, it's still the keyboard. The keyboard is there, right? That motherboard, that circuit board is the keyboard.
Oh, right.
The Mac thinks it's got a keyboard. What you do is you detach the ribbon cable that runs to the keys. So there are no key presses detected, but the Touch ID sensor is still detected, and it totally works. But again, this is ridiculous, and I just want to say, Apple, not all of us want to use your keyboard. Your keyboard's great. It's great. It's not you, it's me. But it would be nice if you put Touch ID on something else that is standalone, either a little box with Touch ID sensor in it, or might I suggest a brand new version of the Magic Trackpad, because my fingers are already on it. That might be a good place to put it.
And thousands of people tune in to watch you guys
You can't get over it. It's chill. So I am an old and don't understand Twitch, but what Mike tells me is the people who come to his Twitch channel on Fridays for Friday Keyboard Club, he plays kind of like chill music in the background, and everybody's like just kind of chill as he very slowly puts together a keyboard.
Yeah.
That's, again, I just get the keyboard out of it. So thanks to Mike for that.
Time for Friday Keyboard Club.
You got it. You nailed it. That's what it's like.
I love it.
Super smooth, quiet, calm. Yep.
I
Jason,
love it.
don't you want to hit the Touch ID, but you accidentally hit the button that activates the trapdoor in front of your desk? Doesn't that happen sometimes?
Yeah, well, that actually is a problem. But the good news about this procedure is that the key that's under the Touch ID button doesn't come with. It's separate. So this thing doesn't move. It only reads my fingerprint. So therefore, the trapdoor remains solid and not with me in it. Yeah, I have to use a different keyboard. I use the Stream Deck to drop people through the trapdoor now. That's my advanced system for that now.
I've been thinking about, I used to have an Apple script, but I really want to turn that into a workflow instead. I think shortcuts are a better way to, actually home automations is your best way to do your evil layer.
Because then you could say it. You could say it out loud. Open the trapdoor, please.
Yeah, or every Wednesday at 3:30, open the trapdoor.
Oh,
if you're
sure.
For cleaning and feeding.
Feed the alligators. Whoever's standing there, it's their problem. Here's a Kludgy solution from the secret.
Speaking of
Kludgy solutions. I'm impressed by you and Mike and your determination, and I think that's actually a great idea. So I'm not going. But this next one is a kludgy solution. The Secret Service is thinking about disabling Apple's messages because of the problem of them deleting messages in the January 6th run up.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've decided, I guess, you know what? Maybe this explains what happened. You may remember, you may know about this, the January 6th committee looking for the text messages between Secret Service agents before, during, and after the January 6th insurrection were told by the Inspector General, oh, I should have told you this. I've known about it for 9 months. They deleted them.
Oh, but it was just routine maintenance. It had nothing to do with any complicity.
We were just changing phones. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But maybe that's true because now the Secret Service is saying we want to disable Apple's messages because we couldn't. And actually this kind of makes sense. So the Secret Service has a system, as do all government agencies, for retaining those. Those are official records. They are, by law, need to be retained by backing them up. But Apple's messages are encrypted. So it turns out they're backing up encrypted nonsense. So their system for backing up, apparently,
it may have been something that no one's ever asked from them before. They didn't know. They might have been just doing backups. They were just doing backups going, well, it backs up everything and then we're going to get rid of it all. And they may not have, they really, like sometimes people make this into a conspiracy when it really is like, no one's asked before. No one's asked for the messages.
The phone resets occurred as the Secret Service was implementing a new MDM, mobile device management platform. Mm-hmm. Apple's iMessages cannot be backed up by this system because they're encrypted and stored on users' devices, unlike regular text messages. So the Secret Service said we couldn't back up the messages. So when individual agents failed to manually back up their data before their phones were erased and reconfigured for the new management system, the only copies of those messages were gone forever. So now they're saying, by the way, I guess it depends on your political bent whether you believe this or not. But now they're saying probably we should use some other messaging service instead of Apple's messages because we can't back them up.
Sure. Although this goes against what I thought that they were encrypted only in transit and that if you do an iCloud backup or they're on your device, they're unencrypted.
Yes, that's true. But the Secret Service does not want to back up to iCloud. So that's legit. But they're not going to back up their phones to iCloud.
But the argument that they're encrypted on device, I think, is not true. I think they're not encrypted on device. They're only encrypted end to end. And if that's the case, then this is not actually accurate. But I don't. Maybe there is a quirk there. It seems to me that this might actually be that the MDM system they're using doesn't do it properly in some way. But maybe you don't use iMessage in that case. Maybe you don't.
It does point out a problem that didn't exist really until like 2005, 2006.
That's right.
Where you have to, it's really, really important that every record be retained, not just for history, but also because, I don't know, let's say that there is a massive insurrection and someone needs to be thrown into jail for the things that they did while they were in office. You need to basically you can't give them a safe sanctuary of we can have communication that is only private to me and my supporters and not to investigators or historians. So, we all enjoyed talking about, Obama has to give up his iPhone and gosh, how disappointing it is to go to a secure BlackBerry, but it's super, super important. And I think this is, I acknowledge that this looks very, very, very suspicious. We can't deny that. I acknowledge that the possibility that maybe this was just a mistake or an oversight or something they didn't really foresee. But it does mean that now that this thing has actually happened, we have to make sure this never happens again. Trust is so important. Even if these are completely innocent messages about, hey, you want to get Dunkin' Donuts after? Or I don't know, I'd rather get Storybooks. We can't have people not being able to trust the people who are the people at this level of government.
Secrets, by the way, Politico, which has this story, says they talked to former CISA director Chris Krebs, who I trust. He says when it comes to handling iMessages, the Secret Service follows its parent department, the DHS's protocols, and according to Krebs, the DHS has not disabled messages. Krebs, though, did say the White House has. So it may, this doesn't solve the conundrum, but it may be that the White House has disabled Apple messages because they can't back them up. I don't know. You know what, Jason? I'm going to put you on assignment. Figure that out. Is this BS or is this real? Are those messages encrypted on device or not?
One of our Twit members said, well, everything's encrypted on device, and it's true, but it's true at a high level, which is there's a key, and so if you erase the key, your device is erased. But the problem is when the device is unlocked and readable, My understanding
They're
was that the messages
unencrypted then.
were
Yeah.
not encrypted
Yeah.
inside that package, and therefore, if you're using MDM and it's something that can just read the disk when it's unlocked, it should be able to see them. And I don't quite understand what's going on there. There may be a very weird quirk here, but it may be more of an MDM quirk than it is an Apple messages are encrypted on device quirk. But I don't know.
And we should also remember that Secret Service they're government employees. They're not political appointees.
Well, but that's the question was, are they or aren't they? Remember that one of the Secret Service agents, in fact, went to work for the White House and then went back to the Secret Service, which is kind of weird.
Well, but for the most part, they're
for the most part they are
for the most part that
apolitical.
they're made
they're
by
supposed to be apolitical. I understand.
And I will say that I think that it's problematic. Like what they're, I mean, there's a lot of things bad about January 6th, and I think that everybody should get prosecuted that needs to get prosecuted. Like, so I just want to say that out loud. For Secret Service, there's a problematic thing about asking for all the communications between Secret Service, given what they're privy to.
Well, they're required to, though. That's not even a question. It's a federal law. Okay, have to. The Federal Record Keeping Act requires they do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
if they want to do it personally, they should do it on their personal phone. I mean, that's the whole point of, having a government phone is that those records will be kept.
No, I understand. I just think that being like just subpoenaing it will degrade their ability to talk to each other. It'll push their communications out of the system, or it'll reduce trust with the
interestingly,
person supposed to protect.
I think that's exactly the point of this story is we better not use Apple messages. We better use something we can control.
The interesting thing is that when we talk about secure platforms, the fact that Secret Service is using iMessage
it's a little worrisome.
Also,
yes.
No.
That's good.
It tells you something. They know a lot. Yeah. They know a lot about what's secure and what's not secure. And the fact that they're using iMessages to talk to each other is interesting detail.
They don't know enough not to erase their messages when they back up when they trade their phones.
Or they do. Or they know enough.
Or they do.
Well,
and that's the question.
Again, we can only speculate about what's going on here. But the thing is, like, whenever these kind of arguments come about it might interfere with their mission or their job, I think that if this, my immediate reaction is always, well, the thing is, these people are supposed to be professionals.
That is the mission. That's part of the mission.
And basically, if you tell them that, and if you tell them, by the way, here is your special phone that you are supposed to use anytime it's a business-related or mission-related thing, you're supposed to use this phone and this phone only. And if you have a problem with that, here's the door. I think I expect the people at that level to be professional enough to say, okay, I don't have to agree with this, but I'm going to do this because it's part of my orders. And the second thing about it is simply that I would hope and expect that the people who make it into these high positions, as well as people who are just hired as cops, people who are in the military, in the National Guard, also have a certain level of sophistication and a certain level of trust in them. But nonetheless, we are finding out that if you start looking for white supremacists in the police force, you find them. If you start looking for white supremacists in pretty much any government body that's supposed to protect people from violent white supremacists, you will find white supremacists in that group. So we can't assume that anything that looks suspicious with this deletion of texts are because we can't assume that the Secret Service are doing something suspicious. But nonetheless, we also can't assume that there weren't one or two people who are like, "Hey, I'm on the side of the insurgents. Finally, we're going to do something about this, and we're going to keep our guy in the White House." We can't assume that either.
Yeah.
So this is why we want transparency.
And I will say this. I know, Alex, you have in your job worked with the Secret Service more than once. A lot. I think you have some direct experience that we lack. But and I think
I'm
you're
just saying,
right.
And I will
These guys,
say,
I have huge respect for them. They'll take bullets for the press.
Some of the finest, most professional individuals I've ever worked with. Even when I made mistakes in the White House.
Mr. Lindsay, you're not allowed to use that staircase. I think we told you
it's
that.
More of if you have a laser measure in the East Room and you miss the door jam and it goes out across the White House.
Oh dear.
People get super excited, dude. Yeah. People get so super excited. I was just measuring because we had to do it.
I can say that my interactions with the Secret Service, the time that I set up my camera on a tripod to take pictures of cows in front of the White House at 7 a.m. one morning, they were so nice to me. They were so polite.
The handcuffs were not that tight.
What happens?
Good.
What happens when that happens? When that little laser goes out, someone comes running. You can tell that they ran and then stopped and walked.
Oh my god!
And they go, "Hey, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
And
we
I
saw
go,
a laser
and I go,
sight,
oh, I'm just measuring the room. We have a thing. And they go, yeah, let's not use that.
Yeah.
Oh, do not put a red dot on anything.
You get the feeling that they had a solution all ready to go, and they're having the friendly conversation.
No. When he ran in, his hand was by his.
Yeah, exactly.
Geez,
Louise.
Oh, geez, Alex. I'm glad you survived
under
that.
his jacket. It wasn't under his waist. It was under his jacket. There was definitely a lot of excitement. But it was like,
yeah, exactly.
But the nicest.
You don't make mistakes twice with the Secret Service, I'm guessing.
I have made
You
mistakes.
learn.
Just different mistakes, not the same mistakes. I find that if you
I
go
think
through
we can be critical of the Secret Service and also respect them. And my guess is a lot of those people that Alex respects at the Secret Service are probably face palming about this entire issue.
Thinking
themselves.
you're probably right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would be concerned about a Secret Service agent or a police officer who is saying, no, I refuse to be audited. I refuse to be observed. You should trust me implicitly and everything, because the best people in those positions understand that they are the spear point of fascism should the country go that way, and they do not want to be the spear point of fascism.
That's exactly right. First look at Belkin's. This is a big change of subject. First look at Belkin's iPhone continuity camera mount.
Oh, geez. I have one of those somewhere. I wonder where it is.
Do you have
I
one?
do. I do. I don't know where.
Oh, well, you could have been you could have been one of the stories in the show
There was
today.
a lot going on that week, but yes, it's out there.
So they gave it to you, and have you used it? Brian Tong had a piece. That's all I was.
You stick it on. I mean, you stick it on the top of a laptop. It doesn't fit on a monitor. Really, it's for laptops. At least the one that I got. So it's kind of
that's what this one looks like
thing.
too. Yeah.
And the big. That's it. I got that. The big challenge is the weight of the iPhone, because honestly, the iPhone is heavy enough that if you get that MacBook screen a little far back, it will just keep opening up. So it's a delicate balance. And I kept thinking, what is the metal thing for? And they say it's for like a tripod so that you can put it on a desk or something instead if you want to have it just sort of at the right angle on a desktop. But I started to think, I wonder if that metal thing is also a counterweight so that you can like bring it out and just get a little more weight forward on the thing so that it doesn't pull the whole display backward, because I didn't understand when we were talking about continuity first off what the challenge would be, that these laptop screens are so light, and then you put a big old iPhone Pro Max on the back and it really wants to pull that thing open. And
in order to use the desk view continuity camera, you do have to have that phone particularly placed in such a way. I presume that's what this is for. Yes.
Yeah, I think and in fact, the way the angle works on continuity camera, you actually do want the screen to be a little bit taller than you would if you were using it normally. So, and that helps with the balance, right? It helps with the weight distribution. And then it gives it a little more field of view to see the desk view in front of you. Although otherwise, even then that desk view is you have to push the laptop so far back in order for the desk view to make any sense. And it's an unnatural position.
So I'm going to stick with camo and a tripod. How about that? That might be.
You can do that too.
Actually, what I often end up doing if I'm in a hurry is I just prop my phone open in the case and I put it on top of a bunch of thick Python books. And that works pretty well, too. So, yeah. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, it will be time for the picks of the week with our fabulous MacBreak Weekly team. Our show today brought to you by CacheFly. And when I say brought to you by, I mean literally. If you're downloading our podcasts, you're downloading them from CacheFly. How do we know CacheFly is amazing? We've been using them for 10 years, more than. They saved our bacon back when Twit first started. Matt Levine of CacheFly came to me and said, I can help you get these shows out to your audience without delay. And it really works with 50-plus locations around the globe. When you're listening or watching a show, you're getting it from a server that's close to you, which means it can outperform any other system. I mean, certainly much better than the HTTP we were using, 30% faster than other major CDNs. And the other thing I love about CacheFly, because they have all these points of presence, they have very high availability. In fact, over the last 12 months, 100% availability, because if one server goes down, no problem. There's another one, and another one, and another one. Now CacheFly is branching out into some very interesting new things like ultra-low latency video streaming. This is so much better than that unreliable WebRTC solution you might have been using. WebSocket live video workflow. It scales to millions of users with sub-1 second latency. Wow. You can also use, and we've been using this kind of pre-release for a long time, CacheFly's storage optimization system. You actually use their storage, which eliminates, these cache misses. So you get a cache hit ratio of 100%. It also takes a load off your Origin servers and reduces your S3 bills if you use S3 for that, as we do. It really is a great way to make sure your content is always available. And with CacheFly's Elite Managed packages, I can tell you personally, VIP treatment 24/7 or support and response times in less than an hour. Most of the time, they're already fixing it before you even call them. They go, we know what's wrong. 10 times faster than traditional methods, 6 continents, lightning fast gaming. It'll deliver your downloads faster with zero lag, glitches, or outages. Mobile content optimization that offers automatic and simple image optimization so your site loads faster on any device. And, of course, multi-CDN for redundancy and failover. Your traffic is intelligently balanced across multiple providers, giving you the shortest routes, mitigating against performance glitches. And that's why whenever you download one of our shows, audio or video, and you're getting it from CacheFly, never a problem, never a hitch. It comes in fast and easy. And with CacheFly's 24/7, 365 priority support, they're always there for you when you need them. They've always been there for us. We're so grateful. Learn more at CacheFly.com. If you're not using CacheFly, you ought to be. CacheFly, CacheFly.com. Thank you, CacheFly, for your support. Pick of the week time. Let's start with Jason Snell.
Last week, Alex had a great desktop picture app that he picked, and it inspired me. So I want to promote Downlink, which is free. Downlink uses NASA's Earth-facing satellites
I want this.
to do, and you can do custom views. It has great coverage in North America and the Pacific, not as great in Europe. Sorry about that. He says the imagery is not as advanced that's available to the public. But you can do a custom crop, or you can choose one of the predefined crops, and it is using these beautiful satellites that take pictures of the Earth all the time, and they update. I think it updates as the images update, so it's like every hour maybe.
It says as fast as every 20 minutes.
Right, depends on
Wow.
the crop and all that. You can go up to every 20 minutes and you can get a live look at the Earth, perhaps over your location, perhaps somewhere else if you really want to. It's a really good app by Anthony Colangelo, and who does a space podcast as well called Main Engine Cutoff. And it's just beautiful. And that is what I use on my desktop. Is I have a picture of the Pacific and the California coast all the way out to Hawaii. And on a hot day, I can see that California has no clouds and they've all been pushed offshore. And right now I'm watching, there's a hurricane out in the Pacific, and it's very visible at the bottom of my screen.
Immediately.
Beautiful. Downlink. It's
Downlink.
great. Lives in your menu bar, launches at startup, and you set the view, and then it will auto update basically hour by hour or a little bit less throughout your whole day, so you can see the evening pass across the face of the Earth, and then you can turn off your computer because it's nighttime.
Downlinkapp.com. It's free. It's free.
Free. Lowest price possible.
Nice.
Free.
Alex Lindsay, pick of the week.
So my pick is the new Light and Magic that just came out last week with on Disney Plus. Wow! So
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary. It's 6 episodes, 6 amazing episodes, and hopefully the first 6 of like 100. It is. It's not just that it's a great story. You can't believe the footage they had, like these interviews with George and some of the behind the scenes of them shooting this stuff. I mean, fortunately, they captured it, but this is really the inception of ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. And then as they built forward, it shows you progressing all the way through, episode 1, I think, is where, or episode 2 or 3, where they talked about some of the digital cameras. And so it's they cross 30 years or 35 years of ILM, and really talk about the big things that changed and who was part of it, and it's fast as a story. It's fascinating. You you realize it was just a bunch of people that just were really into this visual effects thing that no one had really heard of, and they were all hanging. And George just happened to hire the right one, John Dykstra, and he just told all his friends, "Let's go play. Let's go do this." Collected all these people together, and they told some of their friends, and before you know it, you have this crazy group of people that are putting this thing together, and all the trouble that they had. They were 6 months out. They had 2 shots done, and they had 400 shots to go, and so after a long time of doing this, building their own cameras from scratch, and in addition to the fact that it's just an incredible story, it's incredibly well told. This is a documentary production value. As someone who does things like that, the documentary production value is astounding.
It's Lawrence Kasdan who did it.
Yeah.
So he wrote Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, Solo. He's very much involved with this. So he directed this documentary. Wow.
And it is a masterclass in the interviews that they do. If you look at the background and the lighting and everything else, if you look at the animations they do to explain how the camera works, at first it looks like a drawing, but then you see that the little cables are vibrating in 3D. You're like, oh, they rendered that. So there's so many things, and they do these things where they show you like how the matte paintings and it's just. It takes visual effects to an entirely different level as far as just really understanding how hard it is, understanding how hard what they did was, but also just really understanding how it works. And but it's not a geeky thing. It's really about the story, about the people who put these together. And and I got to see a lot of my friends.
Yeah, and the camera, and your camera that you bought, the model camera that you bought.
Yeah, I think the camera that I own is on one of the shots.
I think it's worth saying too, while we're talking about ILM, is just that because I also know some people who work there, and I think that there's this trend, especially in like modern film circles, to talk about special effects people as if they're robots or they're computer programs and they don't really love film. And I'll tell you, I have never met people who loved film and have loved classic movies and love the visual style of filmmaking and try to then the people at ILM, like the people who work in the FX industry in general, they love film and filmmaking. They are filmmakers. And if you ever see somebody say, oh, that's just the technicians at the special effects house, they don't understand, it's not true. Whatever that person is saying, they don't know, because nobody loves movies and the language of movies more than the people who are working in the visual effects houses. That is why they're in that business.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a must watch it. It's fascinating. The first it's just so good. I have to admit, I watched the first one and the second one, and then immediately jumped to the last one. Like, how far are they going to go? So then I watched that one. So now I got to go back and watch 4 and 5.
You watched it out of order. You're hysterical.
I wanted to see if I showed up. So anyway, to be totally clear, I was like, no, they didn't get me. So because the footage, there's so much footage from episode 1 because every time George was doing anything, someone was behind him shooting. So I was curious, like, what they were going to grab from a lot of that. So I was, wanted to see what that looked like, because I've seen tens of hours of that footage, and because I had to do research for something anyway. So so I'm hoping that they're going to do more of these, and so everybody's job is to go watch lots of this, show lots of minutes, that we like this, because I think that Disney. This is the best one so far, but they have assembled. So Disney has assembled, and they've been doing, they did some Mandalorian ones and everything else. This is a great thing for the subscription, because basically it's not nearly as expensive as doing a $200 million Gray Man, right? But people who really like film, it's another thing. It's another piece of content that they can throw out. Now this one, I will say, this ILM one, they spent a lot of money on this one. Like, this was definitely not like cut together by the intern, but I think that I think Disney's starting to figure out that all that behind the scenes footage is valuable for subscribers, because if it just keeps on rolling out between your big tent poles, it's going to keep people on the hook. And so I hope that all these services get deeper into it. I would love to see like Apple do Tiny World, like how did they shoot all that stuff? And they did a little bit of that, but like more and more of these movies, that to me, shoot less stuff. I mean, I know I'm a film geek, but shoot less stuff and just show us more behind the scenes. I'd be good. I'll stay subscribed.
Especially if behind the scenes stuff about visual effects on the modern Marvel movies, where every single visual effects house is saying the worst news we could get is that we're doing a Marvel movie because they are going to nickel and dime us until the very end and keep making changes, and they're horrible to work with. But I'm sure that documentary is coming out on Disney Plus anytime.
That's where I come from. That we call that Tuesday.
Hey, I just want to throw in something for your basement, Alex. This is our staff pick of the week from Patrick Delahanty, our software engineer. The available, but you've got to run and get it right now. The Ecto containment unit from Ghostbusters. This is a model built by. I thought you might want this. It's built out of wood by a company that makes this. Officine makers. There's only one of them. Currently $2,033.61 on Etsy. But
so good.
You better hurry. There's only one, and there are 9 people with it in their carts, according to Etsy. So everybody's going, should I? What will my wife say?
Cool. a lot of those people put them in the carts before the multi-state lottery last weekend.
Yes, that's right.
If I win $1.3 billion,
I win my Mega Millions, I will be buying an Ecto containment unit because everyone needs one of these in their basement. Andy Ihnatko, pick of the week.
A couple of quick, fun audio ones. This is a Superscope C106 cassette recorder, and really designed for heavy duty use for journalists, doing interviews and live press conferences in the 80s. Kind of cool, not terribly interesting. However, you can get an accessory for it that is the reason why I wound up buying it, and it's very, very apropos given our conversations about the Secret Service. You could also get a pistol grip for it.
Oh my God! Maybe not.
So can you imagine running up to the mayor saying,
"Mr. President, Mr. President,
Mr. President, Mr. President"?
Whoa.
So I kind of had to add this to my collection of.
You have a lot of these weird little. What do you buy them at the MIT flea market or?
MIT flea market, and also this was everybody had their silly COVID delusion, and mine was collecting old cassette players because I kind of realized that I kind of fell in love with how they tell a really interesting design story of how some of these were very, very practical. Some of these are trying to design for a specific purpose. Again, I'm a field reporter and I need to I need to basically get interviews and get blurbs for what I'm writing, and people who are trying to enjoy music. And sometimes when the technology was not ready to be a music enjoyment thing, and I just love the fact that so many of these were made in so many different shapes, size, colors, configurations. And like I said, I think it tells an interesting design story of when cassettes before the Walkman came out, and they figured out that, okay, great, it's a stereo high fidelity mobile playback thing. No, okay, but maybe it's a conferencing thing. No, maybe it's a music thing for the beach. And how do we tell?
Superscope, thanks to Scooter X in our chat room, Superscope is still around. They are in this fabulously antiquated looking building. and they make digital solutions that are very much like what you just talked about, but obviously digital now instead of cassette.
Handcrafted, bespoke, artisanal analog recording decks.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to talk about is this. I had to buy this recently, a SpinFit. These are third-party ear tips for pretty much any sort of in-ear headphones that you have, whether you have AirPods, whether you have Sony in-ear buds, whether you have wired earbuds. Most of the time when you see people make complaints about these things, it's not about the audio quality. It's that it's uncomfortable. Right. I can't wear I heard someone talk about, I wish I could wear AirPods, but it just keeps falling out of my ear. It doesn't stay in. Well, the thing is, you can just pull off the little plastic or rubber tip that came with and replace it with something that either A, fits your ear better, or B, maybe you need a larger one in one ear, a smaller one in the other ear. Maybe you want a foam sort of earbud enclosure instead of a silicone one. Maybe you want the kind that is almost like an ear plug, like a noise that absolutely removes all the noise from the outside by making a seal against your ear. And with these third-party ear tip replacements that cost anywhere from $6 to $13 or $14, you can really turn your earbuds from something that you can barely tolerate for a half hour of a workout to something you can wear all day long. And so every 3 or 4 or 5 months, one of my ear tips like winds up tearing, so I have to buy another one of these.
It's good to know you can get third-party ones of these. Are they on Amazon?
Yeah, these SpinFit is just one maker. They're on Amazon. There are all kinds of makers about these. Some of them are really nice in that these are specifically a size medium. I take for these earbuds that they work really well for me. But some of them will sell you a kit that's like a little Sucrets box that has like for $11 it will have all kinds of ranges so that you can really mix and match from one ear to another. So whichever ear is giving you the most trouble, that one's that you give the most attention to. And like I said, it really, not only just for comfort, but sometimes it's like, gee, I really am looking forward to to replacing my non-noise canceling earbuds with the new $100 more earbuds. But then you put in like some better like silicone ear tips and you realize that, wow, that really does seal my ear canal against outside noise enough that I kind of would rather spend the $12 for these than the $100 for a brand new pair.
And they have them for the iPod Pro, AirPod Pro, as well as many others. And they're sized, so you want to order the size that fits your ear best.
Right, and different colors too, so you can get the a kicky yellow color.
This is good to know because sometimes I lose them and I think, now what do I do?
Right.
I'm out of luck. But no, you can get new ones.
Yeah,
Thank you, Andy.
Size for ear and also size for different sized of
you gotta get the one
too,
that's
so
right for your.
They won't. You don't want the earbud coming off inside your ear. That's a bummer.
Well, that's a bummer because it's over. But thank you for being here for MacBreak Weekly. We do this show every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. You can watch us live at live.twit.tv or chat with us live at irc.twit.tv. And of course, Club Twit members are always hanging out in the Discord all around the clock because it's not just the shows, but we have great conversations going on there all the time. Club Twit is, something we started a few months ago. I think it's going really well. It really helps us, kind of subsidizes new show development, gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows, access to the Discord, and then the Twit Plus feed. It's not, our goal is not to leave anybody out. We still offer free versions of everything, but for those of you who don't want ads, don't like ads, or don't want to be tracked by ad tracking technologies and want to hang out with other friends in the Discord, this is, I think, a pretty good deal. It's only $7 a month. We also offer for individual shows a $2.99 per month cost. So if you just want this show ad-free, you can get it just by itself. But you don't get the Discord, you don't get the Twit Plus feed. So I think it's worth the $7, but it's up to you. If you want to know more, twit.tv/clubtwit. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Jason Snell does infinite podcasts. His website, sixcolors.com, has a list of them all at sixcolors.com/podcasts. He also writes for Macworld and many other magazines. He's a very busy guy, but I'm glad you made time to be part of our Tuesdays. Thank you,
Coming
Jason.
from you, Infinite Podcasts is an honor.
No, you do more than I do. That's for sure.
I don't know. On an hour per week basis, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been cutting down in my old age, so I think you're catching up. Thank you, Jason. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Leo.
Thanks to Andy Ihnatko, too, WGBH in Boston. When are you going to be on next?
A day early this week. I'm on at 1:10 in the afternoon on Thursday. Just go to WGBHnews.org to stream it on audio live or later, or go to WGBH's YouTube channel to see the live video stream of it. We're not in the Boston Public Library this week. On Thursdays. That's only on Fridays and Tuesdays, I think. But you'll still be able to see me pretty much exactly like you're seeing right now. only I'll be using my NPR voice.
Are your sideburns getting whiter? They look like they're getting whiter.
No, they're still as fresh. I decided to go platinum with them, but there's still a little patch of.
There's a little color there.
It's weird when it's weird when I look at Google Photos has 20 years of photos of me. It's almost like you can see it's the progress bar of my old age downloading, because you go from deep copper red to a little bit of gray, a little bit more gray, a little bit more gray.
I love it. We've been together a long time, Andy. We both gone a little grayer in those days. Also, of course, Alex Lindsay. We're going to have an Ask Me Anything with Alex rescheduled in our club.
Yep.
August 18th at 9 a.m. So please stop by if you're a club member for that, or join the club for that, because you will definitely want to ask him questions. Our book club, by the way, is August 25th. It's really a good book. Clara and the Sun, Stacey Higginbotham, Aunt Pruitt, and I will all discuss, as will you, I hope. That's coming up. Alex is available for employ if and he promises not to use his laser sights if you don't want him to at 090.media.
Laser measurer.
They're not sites. That's not. The red dot, that's nothing. He's also, of course, the man in charge, the big guy at office hours.
Just barely.
Well, but it's a big
They're
group.
taking over.
Yeah, it's a big group.
Group's taking over.
It's growing
There's
like
100
topsy.
people working on it. So
Officehours.global. Yeah, you can't. I guess you can't really say it's your thing anymore, right? 861 shows today focus on surround sound basics. Sounds fantastic.
And you got to listen to the first hour of that too, because it's just there. We had so many audio experts, and people started asking audio questions when they see who's going to be there, and so it was just really, really dense, dense information. And we're pretty excited. We're going to talk about my new favorite music video called "I Won't" by AJR. I don't know if you've seen it.
I like AJR. I have to say,
so the music video is really well shot. We're going to kind of break it down and talk about how it got done because
they do
really
some amazing
creative.
Stuff. Yeah,
and the words are pretty good too.
Yeah, I follow. I only know about them because of their TikTok, so I see all of their special effects 30 seconds at a time. But I'm impressed. Good. All right. Officehours.global if you want to participate in that global phenomenon. Yeah. And I see you've added a search, which is great. You now have so much content. You have to have a search box.
High tech. To be able to, search the content. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I appreciate it. We'll be back next week. I hope you will, too. Meanwhile, time to go back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.
Hey, we should talk Linux. It's the operating system that runs the internet, but your game consoles, cell phones, and maybe even the machine on your desk. But you already knew all that. What you may not know is that Twit now has a show dedicated to it, the Untitled Linux Show. Whether you're a Linux pro, a burgeoning sysadmin, or just curious what the big deal is, you should join us on the Club Twit Discord every Saturday afternoon for news, analysis, and tips to sharpen your Linux skills. And then make sure you subscribe to the Club Twit exclusive Untitled Linux Show. Wait, you're not a Club Twit member yet? Well, go to twit.tv/clubtwit and sign up. Hope to see you there.